Chapter 31. Inside the escape boat. The defenseless Raichuran was stunned by Ark's punch, and then a series of output attacks stunned him. Boom! The Raichuran fell to the ground, twitching slightly as if he had been abused by a dozen big men. He pointed at the monster-like man with trembling hands. Who are you? Humans should not have such power. Extreme speed, extreme power, extreme reaction. According to the data of the Raichuran people, this is not something that humans should have at all. It is more like a monster in human skin. If you are not good at it, practice more. If you can't afford it, don't play it. Yak grinned, revealing his iconic fangs. I. The Lycaolan aliens, who were in a disadvantageous position, were a little at a loss. They did not expect that there would be such difficult people on this planet. Seeing the monster-like man approaching, it wanted to escape, but it didn't dare to move. Its intuition told it that the monster had locked onto it. If it tried to escape, with Yak's speed, he would fly over and smash its head before it could teleport. The Lycaolan star shouted loudly, I surrender, I surrender. And he knelt in front of Yak in a standard kneeling position. Surrender now? Yak was a little bit unbelievable. Although the previous G people were weak, they still had some backbone. The Raichurans have absolutely no awareness of being aliens. Taking advantage of Ake's distraction, the Raichuran became furious. But unfortunately, Ark was already prepared and stood in front of Nanes and his daughter to protect them. Yak originally thought that it was preparing for a desperate fight, a struggle before death, but who would have thought that the Lycaolan alien would punch the operating table? In an instant, the spacecraft was shrouded in thick smoke. Ha ha ha, stupid Earthlings, destroy yourself and the lifeboat. The Raichuran laughed wildly and then disappeared. It's going to happen, Jack's face changed. I can withstand the explosion, but Nanes and his daughter can't. Before the two could react, Yak rushed out quickly with one in each hand. 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. Yak stared at the movement trajectory of the spacecraft's energy, silently calculated the time in his mind, and rushed out at the last moment. No one knew what was happening to the Raichuran alien spaceship. It did not explode, but instead burned up in an instant. What happened? Nanes Makoto, who was being carried away, had no idea what had just happened. He only knew that he was suddenly out of the spaceship. Captain Yak, Lena. Just then, Daegu and the rest of the team members came to support. At this moment, it was already completely bright outside, which meant that Yak had been working overtime all night. Simply unforgivable. Why are you still alive? The disappeared Raichuran appeared again, but the difference was that he was originally the same height as an ordinary person, but now he is 60 meters tall. The furious Lycaolan raised his foot and stomped heavily on the victory team and others. Dodge! Yak quickly gave a warning and dodged quickly. Everyone disperse the attacks and draw his attention. Understand? After receiving the order, everyone immediately started fighting, drew the hyper rifles at their waists, aimed at the target and started shooting. Nanes Makoto asked, are there any fighter jets here? There is a victory swallow no one. Lena replied. Nanes Makoto nodded and touched Lena's hair reluctantly. Lena, wait here for me, I'll go and put an end to it. No. I'm going with you too. Lena grabbed her father's hand, please don't leave me again. It is good. Nanes Makoto held Lena's hand and walked quickly to the location of the fighter plane. With a large group of people to attract attention, Yak naturally hid in a hidden corner and looked at the Lycaolan star with gritted teeth. My good sleep time was ruined by you. Boss, it's time to receive the guests. With a flash of blue light, a huge monster fell from the sky, right above the Raichuran. With a weight of nearly 90,000 tons falling down, the Raichuran was pinned down before he could even react. Ah! The Raichuran screamed in pain. At least 3 ribs were broken by the blow just now. Name, Yak. Race, Monster, Godzilla, / Human. Height, 90 meters. Weight, 9 tons. Growth value, 23%. Skills, Atomic Breath, Free Fight, Tail Flick, Back Slice, Red Lotus Form, 8%. Note, the Red Lotus Form requires energy collection, but it can be activated at any time. The higher the energy collection, the stronger the Red Lotus Form after activation. Please decide for yourself. After the battle, not only did Jack grow taller and heavier, but he also collected a lot of energy in the form of a red lotus. He is now much stronger than before. Yak grabbed the Raichuran with one hand and threw him out heavily. The entire body of the Reikiolan was like a rag bag, being manipulated at will. After being thrown out, it finally stopped after crushing a farm. You, hehe, what kind of monster are you? Compared to monsters, the IQ of the Raichuran people is much higher. The Reikiolan people just now smelled a familiar scent. It was the human named Yak. That's right, exactly the same life magnetic field. Why? As a monster, why don't you go destroy the planet? Why do you help humans to stop me? The signal eyes of the Reikiolan alien turned red. He couldn't understand why a monster would come to stop it. According to common sense, they are in the same group. This is my territory, and you're just a pathetic alien rat. What would you do if a rat got into your house? Yak answered his own question indifferently, of course I killed it. Damn monster! In just a few seconds, the skeleton of the Reikiolan was connected, and he jumped up and kicked Ark's chest with both legs. Boom! There was a dull sound of beating a cowhide drum, and Yakuju, who weighed 90,000 tons, took 2 steps back. What a strength! Feeling the pain in his chest, Yak secretly marveled. As expected of the Reikurans, who are known as the skeletons of the universe, they have a mean disposition, but there is a reason why they can stand out in a universe with countless species. With such hard bones, coupled with strong jumping ability and powerful punching and kicking skills, he is not completely useless. Why are you fine? On the other hand, the Reikiolan people looked as if they were doubting their lives. Its ancestral craftsmanship is of no use at all today. You have good bones, haha. Yak's eyes lit up, if you condense all the bones in your body and make a tonic. WTF? At this moment, the Reikurans felt the gaze of being hunted. That monster is going to eat it. Without any hesitation, the Raichulan turned around and flew up. Escape, escape now. Tweet. A green laser hit it. It was the victory swallow number 1. Yak rushed forward and grabbed the Raichulan. Now, the Reikiolan people are finally afraid, my lord, please let me go, I will leave this planet immediately. Faced with the pleas for mercy, Yak turned a deaf ear and calmly took out his camera. Come on, eggplant. Click. Photo, bad health products. Ingredients, Raichuran. Travel points, 200. According to the master's request, the recipe has been spread to the universe. Inside the bakery. On the external TV, the news about the Delta spacecraft crashing and the rescue of crew members Asamiya and Nanace Makoto was broadcast. After school, Mingri picked up the crystal clear pill on the table and said, "You said this is the nutritional supplement TPC gave you." "Ah." Yake said calmly, "It's for calcium supplement. You can grow taller if you eat it." "How tall can it grow?" "About 60 meters. TCH, that's a lie." Mingri Kid casually threw one into his mouth, and it was delicious. Chapter 32. TPC Far East Headquarters. Commander's Room. "This is the first time I've seen such a strong magnetic field." Captain Jujian said, "This is definitely not an ordinary weather phenomenon. Maybe it's caused by a monster." On the big screen, a real-time graph of magnetic field fluctuations was displayed, but compared to the past, the magnetic field tonight was somewhat unusually active. Monsters have been appearing one after another recently, just like taking drugs. Now when a problem occurs, everyone's first reaction is that it was done by monsters. We've discovered a strong magnetic field in the KM209 area. Let's go over and see what's going on. Captain Yak and Vice Captain Munikata will lead the team. Do you have anything else to say? No. No. I have. It's like a bowl of salty tofu pudding suddenly appears in the sweet tofu pudding, which is very abrupt. I have a question. The one who raised his hand was Yak. Does tonight's operation count as overtime? As a worker, overtime pay is a must, otherwise who would work seriously? Oh, count it, I'll give you double the amount. Akumahwe held his forehead with his hand, feeling a headache. This Yak is good in every way. He is capable, listens to orders, and has combat capability. The only thing is that overtime work must be paid overtime, and it is called stupid pay. Got it. Yak smiled and said, "Just give the money. By the way, it's not appropriate to go out in uniform today." The captain of the intermediary team said mysteriously. Lena asked, "Today? What day is it?" Since her father had returned, Lena had taken a special leave a few days ago to make up with her father for the regret of not seeing each other for 13 years. The strange thing is, Dagu also went, and he was invited by Lena. "I remember, today is Halloween," Daegu said with a smile. When the others heard this, their eyes lit up instantly. Iruma said, "Today everyone is celebrating the annual Halloween. If I go out in uniform, they will see that I am the victory team and think something has happened. So, it's best to wear clothes that blend in with everyone else." Iruma Hui's friendly reminder made everyone excited, and they all started discussing what to dress up as. At this time, Yak also remembered that Mingri had told him that he was going to the KM209 area with his classmates and had also invited him. "But because of a mission, I couldn't go with you. It's just right, I'll take this opportunity to find the boy. As for monsters and the like, Dagu is enough." In a business car, Vice Captain Munikata dressed up as a ghost and frightened Ake and Horii who were sitting in the front. "Commander, this look suits you very well." Horii dressed up as a vampire and said with a smile. Yak took a glance and saw that Zhongfang had painted his entire face green, and no one knew what he was pretending to be. "By the way, Captain Ark, your outfit," hiss. Horii looked at Yak with a slightly strange look. "My outfit is based on Godzilla, but it's slightly different. After all, who knows if the store's other styles have been sold out?" Yak said helplessly, then pointed to the Tyrannosaurus Rex inflatable suit on his body. "Ha ha 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 ha! Ha 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 ha!" Horii and Munikata finally couldn't help but burst out laughing. "Sorry, Captain Ark, it's really too funny. Other people dress to look scary, but Jack's style is completely different from that of ordinary people." After arriving at the scene, Jack left the team on the pretext of looking for clues first and headed towards the place he had agreed to meet with Ming Ri. "Hey, Ake, I'm here." Under the bright lights, Ming Ri Yazi dressed up as a witch. The tight witch costume made her slender figure look curvy, and the thigh-high stockings made her fair skin look more charming. The boy excitedly hugged Yak's arm and said, "I thought you weren't coming. How did you notice me at first sight?" Yak asked in surprise. The boy tugged at the inflatable Tyrannosaurus Rex suit on him and said, "You told me you were wearing Godzilla, but this is clearly a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Besides, you are the only one who looks weird in the whole place, it would be hard not to recognize you." Yakkei said with all his might, "Ahem, this is the latest model of Godzilla this year, the legendary Godzilla, do you understand?" "Really? Really, really?" The banter between the two was just like that of a real couple. But such an intimate move caused dissatisfaction among the people around him. "Yazi, won't you introduce me to her?" At this time, Yak discovered that there was a high school girl standing next to him. "Oh yes, yes, I almost forgot." The boy pulled Yak and introduced him to the girl, Chizuru-chan, "This is the Yak I told you about." Next to him, Chizuru Yamashima, who was also wearing a white witch costume, bowed slightly to Yak and said, "Hello, Mr. Yak, I am Chizuru Yamashima, your classmate. Please give me your guidance. Your style is really, a little peculiar." "Excellent." Chizuru Yamashima took out 2 very big lollipops from her arms, one for herself and one for the boy. Well, there is no place for Yak. Yak felt like he was being targeted. The other side. Daegu mingled among a group of children and followed the group to go door to door asking for candy. "Hey, Daegu." Lena grabbed Daegu, who was already having fun, and said, "We are not here to play. You don't know this. Playing with children is also part of the survey." Daegu explained with a smile, and suddenly saw 2 children holding colorful lollipops in their hands. His eyes lit up. "Where did you get such big lollipops?" The child pointed in a direction. "Okay, I'll go get it too." After saying that, Daegu excitedly ran in the direction of the finger. Looking at Daegu, who was like a child, Lena put her hands on her hips and wanted to laugh. Is this also part of the investigation? In the square, a woman dressed as a witch shouted in a hoarse voice, "Children with dreams, come here quickly. If you have many dreams, I will have many lollipops to reward you." Next to the woman, there was a small cart with many very large colorful lollipops stuck on it. I want. And can I have 2? I want one for my brother." A group of children gathered around and scrambled to take the candy. "I want a lollipop, too." The woman glanced at it and said coldly, I only give it to children. Ah, yucky, only for kids. The one who was caught in the act was Daegu. Hearing that it was only for children, Daegu could only leave in frustration. As he turned around, Daegyu's eyes swept across the mirror next to him. In the mirror, there were many children surrounding a stall filled with candies, but there was one thing that was strange. That which has no reflection. Chapter 33. Daegyu's scrutinizing gaze fell on the witch. Okay, that's all for today, get out of the way. The witch waved her hand to disperse the children and was about to leave with her cart. Wrong. Something about her felt wrong. Daegyu noticed something unusual and wanted to follow and find out what was going on. One of the little girls stopped in front of Lena and handed her a lollipop. Sister, give it to you. Really? Lena was a little surprised. Because my sister is very beautiful, I like her. The innocent words made Lena very happy. You speak really honestly. When I looked up, I saw Daegyu leaving quickly, as if he was chasing something. I wanted to catch up with him, but as soon as I took a step, my eyes were unconsciously drawn to the lollipop in my hand. This lollipop looks delicious. Still waiting to share with Daegyu. Either take a bite or just take a bite. Lena seemed to be under a spell. She stretched out her tiny tongue and licked the lollipop. At this time, Daegyu was running wildly in the dark alley, chasing the witch. No matter how fast I go, there is always a gap between me and that strange woman. Hey 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 hey. The witch's eerie voice echoed on the walls, and her brisk footsteps were hard to figure out. Don't run, stop. Daegyu was very sure that there was definitely something wrong with the witch, and she might be the culprit of the abnormal magnetic field. After chasing for a long time, Daegyu stopped in front of an open space blocked by a fence. There were 4 words clearly written next to it, no trespassing. The big red characters looked as if there was some ferocious beast inside. The witch disappeared. Daegu was a little depressed after failing in the pursuit. When he was about to leave, a building appeared in the open space in front of him. At the same time, he received news from headquarters that Lena was missing. The other side. The atmosphere of Halloween is very strong. There are people wearing strange clothes everywhere, and the twinkling lights set off the festive atmosphere. Wow, that pumpkin head is huge. The boy tugged at the corner of Jack's clothes, exclaimed from time to time, and the smile on his face never stopped. Drop drop drop. Ark's communicator rang. Glancing over, he saw that the boy was chatting animatedly with Yamashima Chizuru, so he secretly answered the call. What's the matter? Captain Yak, something bad has happened. Daegu and Lena are missing and we can't get in touch with them. What? I'll be there soon. Yak turned around and wanted to say hello to the boy, but the 2 living people who were behind him just now had disappeared. Only 2 colorful lollipops were left broken on the ground. What about people? Because he was so familiar with the girl, Jack was not on guard against her at all. Even if she suddenly rushed into the room, she would not wake Jack up. Yak sniffed the remaining scent in the air. Judging from the trajectory, the 2 people started at the same time and automatically went to the same place, as if they were hypnotized by something. I picked up the lollipop on the ground. The colorful frosting had been eaten away where the boy had licked it, revealing the white stuff in the middle. As soon as he touched it, the smell of the thing rushed into Jack's nose. It was tempting Yak to take a lick. Something has been added here. Just by smelling it, Jack knew that this was definitely not something that belonged to humans. The scent it exudes will lure anyone who picks it up, even Yak will be dazed for a moment, let alone ordinary humans. Okay, now the arrest has come to me. Yak's azure eyes turned stern, his bared fangs became sharper, and the surging shell under his skin couldn't help but burst out. But he restrained himself, telling himself that if he exhaled, the boy would not survive. Hey. Yak calmed down, followed the remaining scent and chased after it. Finally it stopped at an empty place with no one in it. There is only a fence blocking the area and a no trespassing sign. Daegu and Lena were here too, and they walked in. Yak thought about what other team members had reported and was lost in thought. The open space in front of me looked like it was abandoned, overgrown with weeds, and there was no sign of human habitation. But whether it is Yazi, Daegu, or Lena, their aura remains here. Isn't it in the real world? Alien energy? Yak took out the belt from the system space and said, transform. Arc 1. Singurise. Destruction. Ruin. Despair. Destruction. Conclusion 1. The only conclusion. A Kamen Rider exuding an unstable aura appears, and his overflowing murderous intent causes the surrounding weeds to wither and decay. Through the special left eye, the power of darkness poured in, and red patterns shaped like compound eyes lit up. Under the dark red filter, a 2-story building appeared in front of Yak. I found you, you piece of trash from another dimension. Yak leaped up and instantly arrived in front of the small building, kicking open the tightly closed wooden door. As soon as I walked in, the place where the door was originally turned into a wall. In the small building, messy furniture was scattered on the ground and spider webs could be seen everywhere. No one has lived here for at least 100 years. Yak came to the first conclusion. After looking around, I found that Ark's additional attributes were very powerful. The footprints on the ground were marked one by one, which saved a lot of trouble compared to doing it by hand. After comparison, these footprints came from one person, Daegu. Along the way, it was as if someone was deliberately making trouble. The place where Daegu originally walked was blocked by a huge wardrobe. In response, Yak said it was child's play and smashed it with one punch. It is no exaggeration to say that the places where Jack walked were almost like those being demolished. Following the track, Yak finally arrived at the door of a room. Unlike other things, this door is blocked by alien energy, as if the owner does not want outsiders to enter. Is this your trick? It's useless. Yak's hand gently stroked it and pressed it hard. Click. On the energy shield, spider-like cracks spread out in all directions. The other hand pressed on the belt. Malicious. The blood-red lightning raged on the alien energy, corroding and devouring it with an overbearing attitude. Snapped. Finally, under the erosion, the energy shield and the wooden door broke together. Walking in, Yak felt dizzy. This is the discomfort caused by the changing world, and the person who took the boy away has no such ability at all. In the final analysis, he can only act as a gatekeeper. After waking up again, Jack found himself in a park. It was like a world in a mirror, and everything here was shrouded in a thin layer of white light. There are facilities for children to play everywhere, and many children's toys are scattered on the ground. I picked it up and saw the owner's name was written on it. There were 3 children squatting not far away. Yak stepped forward and said, "Hey, kid." The children turned their heads, and what was horrifying was that each of them had a pale face, with confusion and numbness in their eyes. Funny clown hat, the only one in color. Chapter 34. This is the center of the magnetic field. Team member Horii held the detector, while Vice Captains Shinjo and Munakata stood by. Zinken looked at the empty area in the distance and said, "But, there is nothing here." The place where the 3 people were was exactly where Daegu and Yak disappeared. Vice Captain Zhongfang guessed, "It may be something invisible to our naked eyes, emitting strong electromagnetic waves from here to contact the headquarters. Let's scan the underground." Understand. The 3 of them crawled in through the gap and searched for useful information. At the headquarters, Vice Captain So received the message, and team member Nori also found something from it. I had a bad feeling. I looked up the Halloween data from last year and found that every Halloween, a considerable number of children disappeared in many places around the world. Irumake took the report and muttered to herself, "A child is missing. Drop drop drop." Zhongfang, who was at the scene, sent a communication, "We scanned the entire center of the magnetic field, but did not find any abnormalities." "Okay, Captain Yak, can you hear me?" Seeing that the investigation could not yield any results, Irumahue planned to ask Yak who was still among the crowd. But after waiting for a long time, there was still no news. Captain Yak wouldn't be missing like Daegu and the others," team member Yerui reminded. Akumahue frowned. First, there was no news from Daegu and Lina, and now even Yak was missing. After struggling for a long time, Irumahue said to Vice Captain Munakata, "Now that Daeko, Lina, and Yak have disappeared one after another, we have entered level 1 alert. Go and evacuate the crowd. Try not to cause chaos. The police station on the scene will assist you." Hearing that Captain Yak had also disappeared, the 3 of them also understood the seriousness of the matter, understood. In a different space. The child, who was dressed in black and white except for his hat, just looked at Jack quietly. Too strange. Arc armor is the embodiment of all the malice of mankind and the embodiment of all negative emotions from the depths of the soul. Through the eye armor, Yak discovered that there was a missing piece in the souls of these children. Curiosity about the outside world and hope for the future, things that existed in the light, had miraculously disappeared. All that is left is endless numbness. Perhaps because their souls were of the same origin as Ark, these children did not run away, but walked forward and tried to touch Ark. Hey hey hey! A baby-like laugh echoed in the surroundings, and the child's soul was slightly disturbed, and he fled in panic. A huge shadow loomed over Yak's head, and the real culprit arrived. Sure enough, it was a huge monster. The alien from another dimension, Jalanbo, is here. Jalanbo laughed like a baby, but if you listened carefully, there was a hint of weirdness in it. There is a huge crystal in the middle of its face, which contains pure extra-dimensional energy. The ear-like hole on its head is the main thing that allows it to distort the dimension. One of its arms is like a cone and is used for fighting. Outsider, you have succeeded in angering me. Jalanbo smiled and shot out purple light from his face, and the extra-dimensional energy tied Yak tightly. Yak didn't hide either. He wanted to see what Jalanbo was capable of. The dimension is distorted, and to the naked eye it looks like the whole person is deformed and shrunk into a point. Yak, who had already adapted to the situation, only felt a bump, and then appeared in Jalanbo's dimensional mobile ship, trapped in a glass jar. In a jar next to it, there was Daegu. Alas, poor kid. Yak shook his head, patted the glass and shouted, "Hey, victory team, wake up!" After calling out a few times, Daegu woke up dazed and suddenly found that he had been stripped down to his underwear. What's going on? He turned his head to look at the side and said in surprise, "Fang Zhou. Why is it you?" "Hello, Tiga's human form, we meet again." Yake leaned against the glass and greeted him happily, "We are really destined to be together. How about you lend me your magic wand to play with for 2 days? I will return it to you immediately after playing with it." "God light stick. My magic wand." Daegu looked around and found that his AoE and H-37 rifle were all placed on the table outside. The dimensional moving ship was decorated like an amusement park, with entertainment facilities everywhere. La 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 la, la 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 la. A child was sitting on a wooden horse, humming a song with a smile on his face, but he seemed to be asleep, completely unaware of what was going on around him. "Ya!" The wooden door opened, and an old witch walked in and walked straight towards the child on the wooden horse. "Hey! Who are you? Where is this place? Hey, answer me!" The witch turned a deaf ear to Daegyu's call and pinched the child's face. "What are you doing? You are not allowed to touch him!" Daegyu shouted anxiously, "Stay away from that child!" The witch sucked hard, and a stream of colorful energy floated out of the child's brain until it was gradually sucked dry. Jack saw this scene clearly. As the energy disappeared, the child's soul began to grow cold, and the originally colorful world turned dim and black and white. "You're absorbing the dreams of your children. What do you mean?" Daegyu asked hurriedly when he saw Fang Zhou recognized him. Yake explained, "Dreams are something that touches the essence of the soul. Once you lose your soul, you will become numb. That's why those children become pale. It's really vicious." "Oh? You actually figured it out. You are indeed not an ordinary person," the witch said in surprise. "Give his dream back to him. This child's dream belongs to him alone." Daegu shouted angrily. "Ha ha 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 ha." Daegyu's words made the witch laugh wildly, "Children don't need dreams. Before they grow up, they just need to be manipulated like dolls and toys." Bang bang bang. Yake knocked on the glass. "Hey, you idiot from another dimension, I really don't know if you have any unknown fetishes." "What do you mean?" The witch's tone was somewhat unfriendly. "They suck the dreams of children and throw them away. They don't understand sustainable development at all. You even decorated the spaceship like an amusement park. How old are you? Why are you still like a 3-year-old child? Are all you people from other dimensions so lowbrow? Alien rats and alien trash are a perfect match." Yak didn't give any face at all, as if he was not the one being locked up. "You, hee hee." The witch sneered and said, "You are good at talking. I don't want your adults' dreams. They will make you sick. You will die in the jar." Then, with a wave of his hand, white smoke began to fill the glass jar. Yak tested it and found a toxin that could paralyze and kill people. "Ha ha ha ha." The witch smiled, opened the wooden door and disappeared. Chapter 35. Cough cough cough. Daegu in the glass jar was coughing violently. The poisonous gas passed through his trachea and spread to all parts of his body. He pounded the glass surface hard, but to no avail. Dagu looked at Fang Zhou, who was in the same situation as him, thinking that Fang Zhou might also need to hold on. No, Fang Zhou was researching glass materials. You, ahem, why are you okay? Yak shrugged and pointed at the armor on his body. It has air purification function and poison gas filtering device, so young human body, you are still too young. As he inhaled more and more poison gas, Dagyu's face began to turn pale and his body collapsed weakly. On the side, Yak was recording every piece of data diligently. In ARC's database, every physical indicator of Dagyu and the threshold he can withstand are carefully analyzed and recorded. As expected, he is the human body of Tiga, the so-called carrier of light, and is different from ordinary humans. Most people can withstand this level of poison gas for 3 seconds at most, but Dagyu actually endured it for a full 3 minutes. His resistance is incredibly high. As expected, he is the man who turned a mage into a warrior. His tankiness is incredible. Even though Dagyu looks pale now and looks like he is about to die, according to Yak's analysis, this is far from Dagyu's limit. Besides, even if it really happened, I guess Tiga would say, Captain Dako, open your eyes, I am Ultraman Sha, Tiga. Well, probably. With the data in hand, Jack didn't waste any time and broke the glass with one punch. Ark. You. Dagu looked at Yak crawling out in shock. We had agreed to suffer together, but you secretly cheated. Alright, I'll let you out right now, remember my favor. Snapped. Jack punched the glass jar, but because he didn't use enough force, the glass jar only cracked slightly and didn't explode immediately. A finger poke. Wow! Fine pieces of glass were scattered everywhere. Yak grabbed Dagyu and dragged him out. Dagyu took deep breaths of the fresh air, and his pale face became rosy, showing his recovery ability. Thank you. It's too early to say this, you really need to thank me. Yake kept it a secret and picked up the magic stick on the table. How about you lend it to me to play with? No. Almost as an instinctive reaction, Dagu blurted out that the magic stick was his only way to rescue Lena. At this moment, Yak sensed something and put the magic stick in Dagyu's hand with a smile. Don't be nervous, I won't steal it from you. I have something to deal with, you wait a moment, I'm going to kill that idiot. Wait, why? Just as Dagu was about to ask, Yake disappeared. Turn back time. TPC headquarters. All members of the victory team gathered, except for Yak, Lena, and Dagu who were missing. We searched everywhere, but there was no trace of it. Vice Captain Zhong Fang held his head, his face solemn. This time, the disappearance of the team members, the failure of the mission, I cannot escape the blame. Commander, don't be like this. Horii lowered his head and said, if we can pay more attention, maybe. Everyone felt very guilty. By the end of Halloween, everyone had left and nothing useful had been found. It was as if they had disappeared from the face of the earth. Everyone, we've received news that a large number of children have gone missing on Halloween. Team member Yerui said in shock, there are also children in remote areas who are like sleepwalking, heading towards the place where they just gathered. According to the description of the local police station, it's like they were hypnotized. What? Vice Captain Zhong Fang stood up in astonishment. When we were evacuating the crowd, we didn't feel anything unusual, and we didn't receive any news of missing people. Indeed, when the headquarters issued the order for an emergency evacuation, Vice Captain Zhong Fang was watching the entire process, and the local police station also assisted. Ordinary human traffickers would not have the ability to take away so many children under the watchful eyes of a large number of police officers. Then, there is only one possibility: monster. Oh no! The space at the center of the magnetic field begins to distort. Team member Nori, who was monitoring the magnetic field changes, shouted in surprise, it's like a concave black hole. This may be the reason why Ake and the others disappeared. Irumahue stood up, victory team, move out immediately. Understand. Victory Swallow number 209 and Victory Swallow No. were dispatched at the same time. Even the captain of the intermediary team personally went out and flew quickly to the KM area. Under the lonely night sky, the originally empty ground began to distort, and a pumpkin spaceship emerged from the ground. Its triangular eyes emitted red light, guiding the children who came. Although the local police station helped to intercept them, there were so many children that a dozen or so always slipped through. A group of children automatically lined up in a long queue, humming songs, and walked through the fence with expressionless faces, heading towards the pumpkin spaceship. The witch stood on the pumpkin and shouted excitedly, "Come on, children, take my pumpkin boat to the kingdom of dreams. Ha 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 ha, come on." High in the sky, members of the victory team saw this scene clearly. Xingqian said anxiously, "Launch an attack and take down that witch." "No. No." Vice Captain Zhongfang and Captain Zhujian stopped it almost at the same time. They knew very well that Xingqian's intention was good, but such an action was too violent. The children will be hurt. Land the Fiyin and intercept them. Understand? 2 fighter jets landed. Captain Akuma and Team Horii stopped the child and said, "Wake up, kid. Go home, quickly." Munikata and Shinjo pointed their hyper rifles at the witch on the pumpkin boat, ready to shoot if she showed any unusual behavior. But the children were like puppets, without any feeling and only knew to walk towards the pumpkin boat. The actions of the victory team members were almost ineffective. The witch said cheerfully, "You see, adults are enemies. Adults always hinder children from making choices. Adults want to take away children's dreams and freedom." The children suddenly became manic and ran towards the pumpkin spaceship like crazy. Once they were stopped, they started crying, fighting, and making a fuss. The winning team had too few people, and more than half of the children rushed in. The captain of the middle team said, "Knock her down." Understand? Xingqian shot at the witch, but unfortunately missed. Seeing this, the witch laughed excitedly, "Ha ha ha ha, is this the only way adults can stop children from reaching their dream paradise? In that case, I will send you to the grave in advance." The sudden sound echoed in the night sky. Malice. Horror. Anger. Disgust. Despair. Struggle. Murderous intention. Destruction. Extinction. Destruction. Perfect conclusion. Learning end. All learned. Chapter 36. The hoarse voice was a whisper from the abyss. A man kicked the witch in the chest with scarlet blood. The endless malicious attack was like a man-eating evil spirit, scraping the witch's body and dragging her into the quagmire of malice. At this moment, the extra-dimensional energy connected to the children was disconnected, and the children who were originally manic and restless all returned to normal. Arc. Arc. Captain Zhujian and other members of the victory team were in disbelief. Why would he come out to help? The last time Gazot appeared, Arc was standing on the monster's head. A person who can control monsters is actually willing to help the victory team. The witch was hit by a flying kick and flew out, plowing 7 or 8 meters on the ground and exploding. Coax. In the firelight, a hunched figure slowly climbed up. His pointed hat had been burned in the explosion, revealing a head of long, withered hair and a slightly bald head. "Who are you?" The witch lifted up the half-burned mask. Under the mask were distorted facial features that were spinning irregularly. The witch asked sharply, "Who are you?" She couldn't imagine that a person who had been completely infected by malice could have such rationality. Logically, he should attack all humans he sees without distinction until the entire world is destroyed. But the person in front of him is different. He has his own rationality and even attacks himself, who does not belong to this dimension. Then there is only one possibility, that this man named Fang Zhou completely manipulates the malice. He is the master of humanity's deepest desires. A passing Kamen rider. Arc stretched out his arms and said in a hoarse voice, coldly, "Follow Arc's will." Arc. The captain of the intermediate team was stunned at first. Why did this sound like the pronunciation of yak? But he quickly denied this conclusion. Putting aside other things, he thought of Yak's lazy appearance and then looked at Fang Zhou's domineering aura. They are simply not on the same level. Moreover, everyone has seen that Yak was acting with them, and he disappeared with Daegyu and the others this time, which is obviously impossible. "Captain, that person." Horii came over and asked cautiously, could it be related to Captain Yak? Everyone else looked over, they all wanted to know. The captain of the middle team shook his head and said, "It shouldn't matter. That person's name is Fang Zhou, which is pronounced as Arc in English. Combined with the pronunciation of evil in Japanese, it fits his appearance quite well. Besides, you know Captain Yak's character very well. He took out his anger on me late at night because of overtime work. Makes sense." "That's right. Captain Yak's aura isn't as strong as his, nor is he as handsome as his. As soon as the topic was raised, everyone started talking. Although it was very quiet, with Yak's hearing ability, he could hear it clearly. It's hard, the fist is hard. Yak gritted his teeth and said, okay, you're going to make up stories about me when I'm not around, right? Even though I slack off, I get pay raises, I break rules, I'm absent from work and leave early, I'm still your captain. After returning, each of them had to write a 10,000-word self-review, and no one could escape. On the other hand, the witch saw that her opponents outnumbered her and did not want to get entangled any further, so she waved her tattered cloak and disappeared on the spot. One after another, the pumpkin spaceship began to sink to the ground. She's going to run away. I'll knock it down. Xingqian hurriedly picked up the dunk shooting gun, but was grabbed by Vice Captain Zhong Feng. No, there are still many children in there. Then, what should we do? The pumpkin spaceship sank deeper and deeper, and Jack stood there with his arms folded across his chest without moving. He was not panicked at all because Dagu was here. Just as the pumpkin spaceship was about to disappear completely, a huge force forced the spaceship to stop. Ultraman Tiga held up the spaceship and pushed it out. Tiga, it's Ultraman Tiga. The captain of the intermediate team finally breathed a sigh of relief. The witch rode on a broom, flew out of the pumpkin spaceship, landed on the ground and looked at the giant holding up the pumpkin spaceship. She just didn't understand. There were no problems before, so why did they pop up one after another this year? If you dare to stop me, you will all die. The witch's appearance disappeared and turned into a huge monster Jalanbo. Tiga put down the spaceship and took a fighting stance. He wanted to let the monster know what the consequences of hurting the children and Lena would be. Neither of them attacked rashly, and they both observed each other's weaknesses. Yak on the ground jumped up and rushed into the pumpkin spaceship. After destroying countless rooms, he finally found Yuzi and Qunhe in a room full of children. At this time, the two were sleeping soundly and had no idea what was happening outside. After confirming it was safe, Ark jumped out of the spaceship and transformed into Godzilla in front of everyone. Under the horrified gaze of the crowd, a huge monster rose from the ground, blue energy flowing between its back and skin, strong lower limbs, and sharp claws, all of which reflected that Godzilla's body was built entirely for fighting. Roar! I'm going to tear out your middle eyeball and use it as a bubble to step on. Godzilla roared angrily at Jalanbo and attacked with heavy steps, completely ignoring the existence of Tiga. The anger that had been suppressed was finally released at this moment. Godzilla slapped Jalanbo's face with one claw, using his own weight as a basis, pressing the monster back like a heavy mountain. Jalanbo took several claws head-on. The heaviest one left deep scratches from his face to his abdomen, and his whole body was flipped over. Jalanbo began to doubt his life. Why was he a monster? I remember when I caught him, he didn't transform. Jack doesn't care what the monster's mental activities are, he will teach it a lesson with a flick of his tail. But Jalanbo's identity as a person from another dimension was not to be underestimated. He moved away in an instant and appeared in another place. Coax! Godzilla's tail hit nothing and hit the mountainside, and the entire mountain was sunken into a semicircular shape. Jalanbo teleported away and stabbed Yak with his cone-like left hand. Hey! Just like hitting a steel plate, only a little white mark was left on Jalanbo's hand, and nothing else happened. Why is it so hard? What kind of monster are you? A woman inside Jalanbo's body said in surprise. After watching the show for a while, Daegu also felt itchy and rushed up to fight with Jalanbo. You know what, there's a give and take. It's just that Jalanbo's teleportation skill is too annoying. He would launch sneak attacks from time to time, and it's hard to defend against. Yak, who was watching the battle on the side, noticed that although Jalanbo could teleport, the distance of the teleportation was very short, and as long as one was sensitive enough to the fluctuations in space, one could detect it. When Jalanbo teleported again, Yak jumped up and found its position before Jalanbo. Biting the organ that Jalanbo used for teleportation, Yak put one foot on Jalanbo's back, grasped another symmetrical teleportation organ with his claws, and exerted force with his hands and mouth at the same time. Tear it apart. It was torn off abruptly like tearing a rag. He, keep running. There was blue blood between Yak's teeth, which was the blood of the person from another dimension. Then, he took out his camera and took a picture. Photo, trash from another dimension. Character, Gillenbo. Points, 250. It has spread to all corners of the universe, and your notoriety will be known to everyone. Favorability of other dimension people max, fight to the death. Kingdom of Light favorability plus 10, somewhat heard of. Space Monster favorability plus 10, fear. Very good, you are no longer useful, so turn into nutrients. Godzilla opened his mouth wide, and the blue breath burned the monster's flesh. Jalanbo watched himself disappear bit by bit, and solidify into crystals bit by bit. Ah! No. The shrill screams disappeared after a minute. Yak looked at the blue core in his hand and smiled with satisfaction. It was another fruitful day. Inside the pumpkin spaceship, the Victory Team members finally found the imprisoned Yak, Daegu, and others. I'm scared to death. Hori hugged Daegu excitedly. Victory Team assemble. Yak held Mingzi in his arms, looked at the people standing in line, and glanced at Akumahue with suspicion. No, aren't you the captain? Stand in there and pretend to be a team member? We are all responsible for the failure in the early stages of this mission. It is not advisable to be so lax on Halloween. At Yak's serious tone, everyone on the Victory Team lowered their heads in shame. So I decided that everyone should write a 10,000-word self-review. Ah! Everyone typed question marks at the same time. Inspection next Monday, meeting adjourned. There was no emotion in Jack's tone. This is my punishment for you crickets. It feels so good to use public resources for personal gain. Understand? At this time, Daegu came up and asked quietly, Captain Yak, what about yours? Yak was stunned. Could the child be so honest? He actually came up to me. As usual. Clear. Chapter 37. In the long tunnel, the Sherlock car belonging to the Victory Team was driving. PD's scanning program has been installed. Once we get to the site, Lena, you can test it. Daegu, the CO pilot, was holding a computer in his hand, looking very businesslike. Lena said meaningfully, talking about these things while driving, I think it's the most boring. That's right, I think so too. A head popped over from the back seat and said with a grin, Team Daegu, you also need to be relaxed and happy while working. That makes sense, Captain Yak. Daegu smiled and turned off the computer. After improvements made by the support team, Sherlock's car has been expanded from 2 people to 4 people, and now it is just right for Jack to lead the 2 of them on a mission. Lena looked at the 2 of them talking and laughing, and her heart couldn't help but feel sad. It was obviously me who came here first. In fact, only Daegu and Lena were originally scheduled to join, but Daegu dragged Yak to follow along on the grounds that Yak was experienced and could provide guidance. It was difficult for Yak to refuse this small request. After all, it would be too inhumane to refuse a task that only took place when they had written so many documents for him. Lena muttered softly, it's a rare opportunity to ride in Sherlock's car together. Lena, what are you talking about? Daegu didn't seem to hear clearly. No. It's okay. Lena blushed and quickly covered up, you just heard it wrong. But through the rearview mirror, Lena noticed Captain Yak had a sly smile on his face. Did the captain do it on purpose? She wants to snatch Daegu from me? Bah, what's the point of snatching Daegu? Lena's thoughts drifted further and further away. Not long after exiting the tunnel, the car arrived at a construction site, which was where their mission was to take place. The Guts logo on Sherlock's car was particularly obvious, and as soon as he stopped, someone came to greet him immediately. The person in charge, wearing a white hat, bowed respectfully and said, Thank you for coming, Victory Team. How about taking a break? I have prepared a rest room for you. Yak has seen this kind of situation many times. The Victory Team is affiliated with the World Peace Organization and has a very high organizational level, not to mention an extremely important department like the Victory Team. Forget the polite words. What about the things we dug out? Seeing that the Victory Team refused, the person in charge was not discouraged, but stretched out his hand and said, Over here, please follow me. On the simple small table, there was an extremely large ball, as big as 4 or 5 footballs. The scattered soil on it shows that it was dug out not long ago. The person in charge said, this was dug out from more than 30 meters underground. This area was still a sea 10 years ago, so it is probably something from the sea. It's like a time machine. Lena looked up and down, and suddenly thought of the thing in the base that contained Yolian. Let's test it first, said Yak. Clear. Lena walked forward, took a look with the detector, and found that all the values were decreasing rapidly. Could this be metal from outer space? I can't tell anything from the refractive index of light, so I'll use an ultrasonic detector to look at the internal structure. Daegyu came over and saw that Lena's machine could not detect anything, so he decided to use ultrasound to detect it. As soon as he turned on the machine, Daegyu looked towards a certain place unconsciously, as if he was sensed by something. There is a girl there. Daegyu, what are you looking at? Lena also found out in the direction she was looking. Do you know that girl? Do not know. Daegyu shook his head. He knew very well that he didn't know the girl, but he always felt that he had seen her somewhere. For this reason, neither of them cared, except Yak. Yak looked at the girl with narrowed eyes. Alien. Humans and aliens have different smells, or to be more precise, their life magnetic fields are different. Because humans on Earth do not have the ability to travel long distances in space, except for a very small number of astronauts who will be infected by the cosmic magnetic field and then change, the rest of the people are almost pure Earth's magnetic field. The girl was a little afraid of Yak's malicious look, but she still mustered up the courage to pick up the piccolo on her chest and play it. The melodious flute sound was like some kind of signal, and the spherical thing began to shake, and Daegyu and the other man were startled. Sure enough, there is a problem. What? Just as Jack was thinking about how to arrest the person reasonably, the girl seemed to be suddenly attacked and fell to the ground with a scream. Shit, I haven't even started yet. Chapter 38. What's wrong with you? Wake up. Daegyu ran forward and helped the girl up from the ground. Lena measured the girl's breathing and pulse with her hands. This girl. Daegyu saw her face clearly, as if he had really seen her. Don't look at it. Lena, take this man with you. Daegyu, go pack your things. We'll talk about it when we get back to the headquarters. Yak touched his chin and gave orders. He didn't do anything, so why did he faint? The bodies of aliens shouldn't be so fragile. Far East Headquarters. On the screen in the command room, Horii was in the laboratory, helplessly pointing at the sphere beside him. I have shot it with a laser, but there is no trace left on the surface. The upper part seems to be a lid, but it can't be opened. Maybe it's intentional not to let people open it. Lena said. Things found 30 meters underground must have fallen into the sea at least 100 years ago. Team members of Yerui displayed the analyzed data and transferred it to the big screen for everyone to watch. Where is that girl? The captain of the mediation team looked at Lena and Daegyu. Daegyu rushed to say, she has been sent to the medical center for examination. Captain Yake has accompanied her there. Yes, that's right, Jack did not attend this meeting. Instead, he took the initiative to ask Daegyu to send him over alone and watch over him before Daegyu did. Lena expressed great relief. In the single room of the medical center, Jack crossed his legs, waving the fruit knife in his hand up and down, his eyes stroking the girl's white neck back and forth. Should we kill her now to prevent future troubles? Yake quickly rejected the idea. He took the initiative to offer to take care of this alien, but now he is dead. It's hard to explain. Or, disguise as Ark and rob people? That won't work either, as I don't have a clone. It's really difficult. Yak was in a dilemma. His aversion to aliens reached its peak when Gillenbo kidnapped the boy. Captain Yake, I leave this to you. Mayumi Shinjo said as she walked towards the door. As soon as she opened the door, she ran into Daegyu who came to visit her, followed by Lena. You are Daegyu, right? Thank you for taking care of my brother. Mayumi's eyes lit up and a bright smile blossomed on her somewhat childish face. I remember you. Daegyu recalled that it was this girl who delivered the physical examination report to them that day. Your brother is a member of the new city team, right? Mayumi nodded. I came in through my brother's introduction. Daegyu joked, but you two don't look much alike. Compared with the members of the Zinken team, Zhen Yumei has a petite figure, is much whiter, and is more lively. Mayumi Shinjo said, if I were like him, I'd be in trouble. I'm leaving now. I'll leave this place to you. Mayumi waved and left the ward. At this time, the girl on the bed had sat up, staring blankly at the white sheets on the bed. Captain Yake, how is her condition? Yake took a bite of the apple in his hand and said, according to Mayumi, she seems to have lost her memory and doesn't remember anything. Or maybe she was frightened and temporarily lost her memory. We have just completed all the fault checks and are currently analyzing them. Lena sighed, it's so pitiful to lose your memory. What happened was that the capsule moved a little, and then the girl fainted. Is that the reason? Indeed, for ordinary people, this situation is a bit scary, but after all, it is just shaking, and it won't make you dizzy all of a sudden. Daegyu's words reminded the girl of something, and she glanced at Yak in fear. It seems to be saying that Yak is the culprit. Hey, don't look at me like that. I didn't do anything. I was with you all the way. It's not okay to repay kindness with enmity. Yak was unhappy. I didn't do anything, why were you looking at me like that? Even if I have an idea, it's just an idea, and I won't slander someone's innocence for any reason. Daegyu lowered his body and said, don't be afraid. Captain Yak may have a fruit knife in his hand, but it is for you to peel fruit. Captain Yak is a very good person. That's right. Jack nodded in agreement and took a bite of the apple. Do you remember your name? Daegu spoke softly, afraid of scaring the girl who had just woken up. I feel like I've seen you somewhere, a long time ago. Of course I know that's impossible. May I have your name? As soon as he finished speaking, Yak stopped eating the apple and looked at Daegyu, who was speaking in astonishment. Good boy, I usually see you with thick eyebrows and big eyes, but I didn't expect you could do this. And you use it in front of Lena, you have guts. Lena was stunned by Daegyu's words, her eyes widened in disbelief. I was the one who came here first, why? Yak put down what he was holding, sighed, patted Lena on the shoulder and comforted her, don't be sad, Lena, all the bad men are like this. Why don't we throw her into the sea to feed the fish at night? Hey, Captain Yak, that's too loud. Daegu looked at the two people who were plotting loudly in silence. I really think I have seen her. What about chatting up girls, Captain, please don't slander me. Also, Victory Team members are not allowed to clash with ordinary people. Tisk, there are so many rules. Yak said regretfully, Team Lena, don't give up, we will find another chance later. The girl looked around at the three people in front of her, and finally set her sights on Daegyu. My name is Saki. The girl said timidly. Lena said, is Saki your name? Ah. It seems like he still remembers things. Could it be that his memory is blocked? Yak discovered through his own eyes that the girl's body structure was exactly the same as that of ordinary humans, except that, the aging rate of her cells was very slow. This means that the girl's age may be older than people can imagine. That's a bit interesting. Yak looked at Saki deeply and said, let's go first and let her rest for a while. Clear. At night, there are only a few nurses patrolling the medical center. Saki, who was soundly sleeping, opened her eyes and followed the guidance in her heart, heading straight to the laboratory where the capsules were stored. At this moment, team member Horii was not asleep. He planned to try to open the capsule overnight. In the corridor, the melodious and clear sound of the piccolo echoed, as if coming from the laboratory. Horii followed the sound and indeed came to the laboratory. A girl he didn't know was playing the flute, and the capsule, which had been fine, began to shake and finally slowly opened. It's open now. Horii was dumbfounded. He had spent the entire afternoon trying to figure it out but couldn't move at all. There is something wrong with the girl in front of me. Chapter 39. Commander's Room. Everyone on the victory team gathered urgently. What is this? Daegyu asked. On the big screen, above the earth, a huge object is approaching the earth. Team member Yerui explained, this is the picture captured by the Delta space station 10 minutes ago. Vice Captain Zhong Fang said, are there any signs of life? Yes, and the predicted landing location is Tokyo Bay, about 50 minutes later. As for why this happened, Horii has already explained the reason clearly, it was Saki, who was brought back by Daegu and the others, who did it. The culprit, Saki, escaped on the emergency lifeboat. Horii said affirmatively, that light is used for navigation. After receiving the signal, the thing is approaching rapidly. Meanwhile, Yak, who couldn't sit still, stood up and said, in that case, everyone stand by. Understand. Tokyo Bay. The thing that fell from the sky slowly slowed down and finally landed like an airplane. There was no explosion and no casualties. The huge oval egg cracked open and it was a monster. Guardian Monster Machina, here we go. Machina's appearance was not as ferocious as the monsters the victory team had seen before. Its back was covered with an open shell, and it looked like a blooming flower from the front. At this moment, the monster is heading towards the city. On the Victory Swallow number 1, the Zinken team member said, "Captain, Captain, a monster has been spotted." At the same time, Yak was watching from a distance with a telescope. He did not directly participate in the battle, but gave orders on the spot. "Launch an attack and stop it in its tracks." "Clear." At the command, Victory Swallow number 1 opened fire first. The red laser hit Maki's front, and the high temperature made it scream in pain. It retreated repeatedly while covering its wound. Seeing that the attack was effective, Victory Swallow 2 launched an attack, but this time its luck was not so good. Machina used the open shell on one side of its body to block the laser. The shell's surface was smooth and faceted like diamonds. The laser hits it and is directly reflected. Ark in the distance said, "The monster's shell has reflective properties. Everyone, aim at its belly and other soft parts." "Yes." Yak's impromptu response gave peace of mind to the members of the Victory team who were still fighting. Only. Yak took a deep look at Machina. There was something wrong with this monster. According to the law of the jungle in the universe, 99% of monsters are extremely ferocious. After all, survival is not shameful. But the monster in front of him had no desire to attack at all, and Jack did not see any brutality in its eyes. The victorious team members launched another attack, aiming at the front of the monster where there was no shell protection. Under attack after attack. It seemed as if Machina had predicted this in advance. The shell on its abdomen closed, and all the attacks were reflected, with only a few hitting its head. With little success. Zinken shouted anxiously, "Get out of the way!" Victory Flying Swallow 2, out of trust in her teammates, Lena subconsciously twisted the joystick. "Ya!" A clear burning sound penetrated the eardrum. The laser left a shallow mark on the wing of Fian 2, and Lena could even see sparks that had not yet gone out. It was so thrilling. "Avoid, everyone, make a detour and temporarily stop attacking." "Clear." Captain Yak's voice came from the headset, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Captain Yak in the mission is a man who is extremely calm, but his style is mainly bold and unconventional. In the middle of the house, Machina stopped the frenzy he had just experienced when he landed and became extremely cautious. "Wow, wow!" Machina let out a long roar and tiptoed through the middle of the house, as if afraid of damaging something. Lena said tentatively, "That monster seems to be looking for something." "Ah!" Daegya nodded in a daze. He was also a little confused. He started looking for something now? "The victorious team has landed, gather at my place." In the headset, Yak's voice was clear and distinct. The plane lands. Vice Captain Zhong Fang led his men to Yake and asked in confusion, "Captain Yake, why did you ask us to stop? Are you really not going to continue the attack?" Yake nodded, "The Victory Swallow 2 is already damaged. If we continue, there will be a risk of crashing. As for that monster, let's observe it for a while." "Captain! That's a monster!" Zinken pointed at the huge creature in the distance. "But I'm still the captain." Yake folded his arms and looked at the monsters that were moving quietly in the distance. "Team Zinken, I know you really want to eliminate the monsters and protect the safety of the people. But with only 30 minutes to retreat, the masses had no time to react. Once a fight broke out, the aftermath of the battle can be imagined." Ake had a little memory of the monster in front of him, but he couldn't remember much. He only remembered that his name was Maki or something. This made the human part of him feel deep down that he could not continue attacking and had to stop. "Yes, Captain, I was reckless." Member Zinken bowed in shame. He was only focused on how to destroy the monster and forgot everything else. "The sun is about to set, notify the equipment support team to come." "Clear." As the sun was setting, Machina noticed it and left the city on her own, away from the houses and buildings. Yak, who was eating bread for dinner, had a question mark on his head. "What are you talking about?" The monster left the city and went to the beach of Tokyo Bay. Watching the live video feed from his support team, Machina walked onto the beach, closed his shell, and then, went to sleep? Yak directly asked, "Are you here for tourism or as a guest?" "Such a regular schedule? Thinking about having to work overtime all night, ugh, so miserable. Bring the spotlights." 10, no. 20. Yak's face was full of resentment. He was working overtime while Monster was traveling at public expense. Don't live, don't live. On the beach, according to the orders from the superiors, as many as 20 spotlights were pulled to the scene and fired at the monster's shell. The victory team members also arrived at the scene, ready to respond to the crisis at any time. Daegu leaned his back against Sherlock's car, with his inseparable team member Lena next to him. When I was little, my family bought me a bicycle. Daegu talked about his childhood for the first time, which surprised Lena a little, but she immediately pricked up her ears and listened carefully. This is a rare opportunity. Only by understanding Daegyu's past can we get closer to him. Daegyu smiled and said, after I learned how to ride a bike, I rode to the beach alone. In fact, the distance from my home to the beach is not far, but for me at that time, it was a big adventure. The sun was setting and I couldn't find my way home again, until I met someone, a big sister in a long white dress. The big sister in the white dress. Lena was a little confused. Daegyu had an inexplicable smile on his face. She pointed out a direction and told me that I could go home from there. But when I asked her why she didn't go home, she told me that she was waiting for someone to pick her up. And that girl named Saki, looks a lot like the older sister back then. Lena seemed a little anxious. This is impossible. It has been so many years, how could there be no change at all? This feeling was very uncomfortable, just like mentioning the good things about your ex in front of your current boyfriend, and Lena felt itchy all over. Oh my, looks like someone is going to have trouble sleeping tonight. A mean voice came from behind, scaring Lena. Turning around, I saw Jack lying on the roof of Sherlock's car, chewing bread. Hello. Chapter 40. Lena pouted and complained, Captain Yak, you almost scared me to death. It's called exercising your willpower. Yak nodded at the monster, is there anything unusual? The silent Maki was completely asleep. Even from a distance, one could hear her heavy breathing. She seemed to be sleeping soundly. Daegu shook his head, I have absolutely no clue. Even if there are enough flashlights, there is no movement. Wipe. Yak took a bite of the bread in dissatisfaction. Captain, there's a transmission from headquarters. Someone from the support team ran up with a computer, and the captain of the intermediary team was on the screen. Iruma said, Captain Ake, I'm sorry to disturb your rest. I know you're disturbing me, so why did you call me? That's so presumptuous. Of course, on the surface, Yak still smiled and said, it's okay, it's just making money, no worries. Based on the discussion between me and Director Sawai, we have unanimously decided to launch the attack immediately tomorrow morning, and you, Captain Yak, will be in full command. Iruma said with a serious expression, the news from the medical center is that the girl's body temperature has been maintained at 31 degrees, which is totally not what a normal human should have. We strongly suspect that she is the one controlling the monster, so. Captain Ark, please bring her back. Arrests. Yak raised his eyebrows. This was not like the style of the victory team. The victory team versus humans, oh, no, Saki is not a human, that's okay. Alive or dead? Jack asked calmly. In his eyes, the life and death of an alien was no different from that of an ant. Before Iruma could say anything, Daegu grabbed Ark's hand and pleaded, Captain Ark, don't hurt her, okay? Yak looked into Daegyu's eyes calmly for a long time, then sighed, well, you're my team member after all. Thank you. Daegyu's heart finally settled down. The captain did not interfere with Ark's decision, for the safety of all mankind, I leave it to you, Captain Ark. The next morning arrived. The weapons of the equipment support team had been prepared early, with 50 automatic cannons aimed at one another and missile launchers on standby at any time. In the sky, Victory Swallow No. 1 has taken off and is ready for battle. The sunlight awoke Machina, and its closed shell opened, revealing its limbs and head. Captain Yak, the monster has awakened. Daegu, who was helping to debug weapons, discovered something unusual and immediately reported it to the temporary command post. Yak's voice came from the headset, retreat now, and let the automatic artillery handle the rest. In order to reduce casualties, the headquarters ordered the support team to install automatic artillery around the monster overnight, controlled by an intelligent system to achieve intelligent saturation strikes. Wow! Maki let out a long howl toward the sky, stretched himself, and looked around carefully. Why was the surrounding area filled with densely packed sticks? Machina scratched his head. Could it be a unique welcome ceremony on this planet? Fire! At Yak's command, 50 automatic cannons opened fire at the same time. Because the monster's shell can reflect energy, Yak specially replaced all the ammunition with real bullets such as incendiary bombs and grenades. Countless ammunition exploded on Machina's body, and the brilliant explosions were reflected by the monster's shell, appearing dazzling. The sudden heavy blow knocked Maki to the ground without any preparation. For a moment, there was no ability to resist. On the Fee in number 1, the Zinken team member said, "It's a success, Captain, the automatic artillery operation was successful." "Very good." Yake smiled with relief. Lena, open the champagne for me." Where's Lena?" Last night, Yak decided to let Zinken drive Fee in number 1 alone in order to observe the movements of the monster. Lena stayed by the side, ready to give Daegyu motivation at any time. Now, where did a team member like me go? TPC Far East Headquarters. Lena, who had disappeared, appeared in the command room at this time, holding a photo in her hand and pestering team member Yerui. "Captain Yerui, please help me. Find out the secret of this photo. Maybe we can find out why the monster came here." "Hate it, you're really good at forcing people." Nori Hashumi had a bitter face, but still picked up the photo. "Just check if it's correct based on the shape of this pendant." "Ahoy! No problem. The data query program I wrote is absolutely first-rate." Speaking of this, team member Yerui was full of pride. "No matter what information it is, I can easily find it." Okay, I'll tell you more about your computer skills next time we go on a date." Lena interrupted quickly, otherwise Yerui would have continued talking until tomorrow. "You never date anyone except Daegyu, what else can I say?" "Oh, hurry up." Last night, after listening to the meeting conversation between Daegu and Captain Yak, Lena suddenly had an idea, whether she could find some information about this special pendant from team member Yerui. So, while there was nothing else to do, Team Lena returned to the headquarters. Team member Yerui quickly analyzed the information of the pendant on his computer, but it was a little strange. The girl was there at every time period. The earliest one was actually recorded in 1802. My god! Lena's eyes widened. How old is this girl? Tokyo Bay. After being bombarded, Machina was terrified and curled up in fear, using its shell to protect itself. Daegu, who was not far away, seemed to sense something. That monster is crying. Suddenly, a melodious flute sound appeared. There shouldn't be anyone here. Daegyu looked in the direction of the sound and saw a girl in a black dress playing a flute and slowly approaching the monster. It's Saki. At this moment, on the Fee in number 1, Zinken said, "Team Horii, it's your turn to play a role." "Okay, I understand." Fee in number 2 has taken off and Horii has locked onto the monster. In order to deal with this Machina, Horii specially developed a blind spot missile. Just as he was about to launch it, Daegu immediately stopped him and said, "Wait a minute, Saki is next to it." "What did you say?" Horii was stunned for a moment. "I was about to take off my pants, and you show me this?" Saki was getting closer and closer to the monster and shouted, "Machina." The monster also saw Saki, stood up excitedly, and responded, "Wow." Daegu was eager to rush forward and pull Saki back because the automatic artillery had already started operating. "Stop!" Daegu took out the magic stick from his arms. You know, although there was no one at the scene, the teammates of the Victory Swallow were watching. "Hey!" The automatic artillery drooped down weakly, like a middle-aged man with little energy. "Daegu, I know you are anxious, but don't be anxious." Yak's unique lazy voice came from the headset, "I'm not blind yet. Just now we received news from the headquarters that the girl named Saki is an alien. She has lived for at least 200 years, so maybe you actually recognize her." "Thank you, Captain." Daegu expressed his sincere gratitude. If Captain Ark had not stopped him in time, he would have been discovered to be Ultraman Tiga today. At this time, Saki was closer to the monster, and Daegu rushed forward and grabbed the girl. Daegu! Daegu! On the Victory Swallow, Horii and his companions were terrified. They now have only one thought, which is to open fire and save Daegu. And many more. Before they could pull the trigger, Ark stopped them directly. "There's something wrong with that monster, wait a little longer." "But Captain..." "Wait." Yak's tone suddenly became more serious. "Ming, understand." Chapter 41. Please wait, I have something to say. Saki was very strong, and Daegu staggered after being dragged. She used her thin body to block the monster. "Machina came to the earth just to take me back. I couldn't tell it that I was here, so I kept waiting and waiting. I really want to thank you guys for digging that up. The girl said this sincerely. She was very afraid that the victory team and Machina would continue fighting. Given the victory team's offensive strategy, coupled with the giants and monsters hiding in the dark, Machina has almost no chance of winning. It doesn't mean any harm to you. Saki bowed deeply to express her apology for the trouble she and Machina had caused to the earth over the past few days. Because Daegyo's communication was not turned off, the headquarters and Yak at the scene could hear it clearly. No wonder the monster was so frantic when it first landed. It turned out it was getting impatient waiting for the passengers. Later, they became more cautious and found the passenger, but were warned not to cause trouble. My Ultraman Noah, Machina is really a taxi driver. This left Yak speechless. I worked so hard and overtime just to watch this? Buddy, why didn't you tell me earlier if you wanted to call a taxi? Why do we have to hold such a big welcome ceremony for you? Machina, who in my family understands? I almost got beaten to death when I came to pick someone up. Horii asked into the communicator, Captain Ye, AK, what should we do now? What can we do? Yake rolled his eyes. Just wait for her to leave on her own. Pack up. Understand? In front of the monster. Saki shouted happily, thank you for picking me up, Machina. She waited for hundreds of years and finally her family came. The pendant on Saki's chest burst into dazzling light, wrapping her up and flying into the monster's hands. Daegu stared at this scene blankly, and Saki's voice appeared in his ears, thank you, Daegu, I have always remembered you. Now I have found my home too. The monster's shell closed again and flew away into outer space. Daegu stood there, unable to let go for a long time. Hey, Captain Daegu, your Lena is still waiting for you in the command room. Yake appeared next to him and put his arm around Daegyu's neck. It won't work if you fall in love with everyone you meet. You will be hacked to pieces. Daegu smiled bitterly and said, Captain, what you said is true. I was just thinking about the big sister I met on the beach that year. She has found her home and can finally return to where she belongs. Also, what do you mean by my Lena? She will be unhappy if she hears it. Will she be unhappy? Yake smiled mysteriously, hey, will Team Lena from the headquarters be unhappy? Yes, Yake's communication has never been turned off. Captain, you are plotting against me. Daegu looked incredulous. He had never seen such a shameless person. Ha 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 ha. Yake happily ran away, leaving only the message in his headset, the mission is over, everyone, take a 3-day break and have a small vacation. The next day. The early morning sun fell on the head of Yak's bed. Snapped. The door was kicked open, and Mingri walked in aggressively, pulling Yake's pajamas. Hey, you said you would go out with me during the holiday, and you're sleeping again, hurry up and get up. Hey? Oh. Yake opened and closed his eyes. The kid who was chattering just now was instantly tangled in the quilt and thrown out the door. Finally clean. It's vacation, what else can you do but sleep? He is a corporate slave of the victory team, not someone who writes novels all year round. Yake, you shameless bastard. Don't let me out. If you come out I will, just, let me go. The girl cried for a long time, but found it was useless, so she decided to change her approach. Oh, you big pig's hoof, you used to call me dear Miss Yazzie, but now I throw you out the door. You are so cruel, Yake, I want. The tightly closed door was opened, and the boy who was leaning against the door and crying almost fell down. A big face with a forced smile looked down at her and said with gritted teeth, oh, my dear Miss Yazzie, you succeeded in getting me out of bed. So could you please stop shouting? It's not good for the neighbors next door to hear it. Oh, then let me go. The girl raised her little face proudly. Facts proved that she was the real winner. Ugh. Yake sighed, picked up a corner of the quilt and pulled it hard. Bang. An 18-year-old JK girl with twin ponytails and black stockings appeared on the floor. Well, very practical. The girl stood up as if nothing had happened and brushed off the non-existent dust on her skirt. Change your clothes first, I'll wait for you. I went back to bed and started thinking about life, but after thinking for a long time I couldn't come up with anything. Hiss, I remember I had a lottery system. These days, I was busy dealing with monster issues and didn't take any pictures of Machina. A huge loss of 200 points. Check the existing points. Name, Yake. Race, Godzilla/Human. Travel points, 2580. Note 1, the lottery module has been enabled, and you can spend 100 points to draw once. Note 2, all items 1 will be used as travel souvenirs, and after sales service is not within the scope of business. Not bad, can draw 20 times. As per convention, Yak first prayed to Noah, the three pure ones, Buddha, God, the Emperor of the East China Sea. He crossed out the last one and finished praying. 20 consecutive draws, start. Unlimited refills of Mingqian Longjing. Red King Fragment 5. Bronze God Light Rod, Power Enhanced Version. 8-point Light Wheel, Skill Card. Fire Style, Great Fireball Technique, Skill Card. Monster Feed 50, note, you can use it yourself. Artificial Human Body, blank. In general, the magic wand cannot be transformed, and it cannot be synthesized without enough fragments, but fortunately there is enough tea to drink. Feed? That's for pets to eat. It won't increase your growth value if you eat it yourself. Godzilla is only 90 meters tall now and is still in the adolescent stage of growth. It is enough for him to eat some alien supplies. What interested Yake the most was this artificial human. Item, artificial human body, unformed. Quality, Grade B. Introduction, an unused artificial human in a technological world, which can be used to transform into any shape, limited to ordinary humans. Note, Laoye, do you want a wife? The system's classification levels are clearly defined, from C, B, A, S, SS to the highest. As for this artificial man, Jack had a good idea. While I was thinking, the kid downstairs called out, "Hey, Yake, are you dressed? It's time to eat." Yake responded weakly and slowly went downstairs. Chapter 42. After hesitating for half an hour, the boy couldn't bear it any longer, so he grabbed Yake's hand and went out. "Mom, Yake and I are going out to play. Be careful on the road." After saying hello, the two took a car to the amusement park. Because it was the weekend, there were a lot of people in the amusement park. Everywhere there are parents accompanying their children and couples on dates. Ding 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 ding, how's Yake? Are you excited? Are you happy? The boy's eyes were twinkling, looking forward to Jack's expression. What's fun in the playground? In his previous life, Yak had even been a mercenary, and he played to the extreme. But the girl's eager look made Yak smile. Of course I'm happy. Let's go, my dear Miss Yazi. Yak took the initiative to hold the boy's hand, which was his anchor in this world. It is an unbreakable anchor that ties this wandering traveler. Buy your tickets and enter the amusement park. There are many projects here, including carousel, pirate ship, Ferris wheel. As they were walking around, a man called them. "Captain Yak, why are you here?" Yak turned his head and saw that the Shinjo team members also included Mayumi. "Can this happen?" "Hello, Captain Ake." Mayumi greeted happily. "It's not work time now, just call me Yake." It was already vacation time, and when Yake heard the word captain, he felt itchy all over. "By the way, why are you two here at the amusement park?" Speaking of this, Shinjo complained, "I told you, we finally got 3 days off and should have been sleeping in, but Mayumi dragged me to the amusement park." Mayumi did not hesitate to expose Shinjo's scars. "You don't have a girlfriend, and you just stay at home and sleep all day during the holidays. It was obviously me who felt sorry for you and showed mercy to you. You should be thanking me. What the hell is going on? It's obvious that your boyfriend is not in Japan." Xin Cheng suddenly realized that there was someone following Yake, so he pointed at the girl and asked, "Yake, who is this?" The last time Jilanbo appeared, Xingqian had also seen him, but because Yak was afraid that the boy would catch a cold, he said a few words and left, leaving no chance for others to gossip. "Now it's okay, just hit it directly." "You guys." Yake shook his head helplessly, "What are you thinking about?" "This is my landlord's daughter, Mingri." "Boy, this is Tetsuo Shinjo, and that's his sister Mayumi Shinjo." "Hello, you guys." The boy said timidly, obviously a little shy. "Oh." The two of them looked at the blushing boy with gossipy faces. The expression on his face says, "You are kidding. By the way, since we finally met, let's go to the haunted house together. There are discounts for group tickets." Mayumi poked the boy with her elbow and whispered, "Come with us to the haunted house. If you're scared, you can hide in Yaku's arms. At first, when the boy heard the word haunted house, he was a little scared, but when he heard that he could hide in Jack's arms when he was scared, he became full of fighting spirit in an instant. Okay. Without saying anything, he pulled Yak away. They have a very good relationship. Brother, what do you think will happen if I bring Yak and Yazi together? Mayumi's gossipy soul was burning. Hey, what dangerous things are you talking about? If you get into trouble, don't tell anyone that I'm your brother. Shinjo quickly moved away from his sister. This was too exciting, but it's rare to see Captain Ark like this. A strange thought popped up at this moment. How about taking a photo? Zinken took out his cell phone, took a picture of the scene, and sent it to the victory team's group. New town, photo. Zinken, look what I encountered. Captain Ark. Dagu, Captain Yak is so cold, he didn't even invite me to the amusement park. Lena, who is the girl next to the captain? She is so pretty. Dagu, could it be that she is the captain's girlfriend? Wow, is this true? AK, Dagu. I can see the message, you are finished. Dagu, Captain, I was wrong. Don't do that. Hori, Shinjo, Irumake, Rina, Nori, Munikata, you deserve it. Amusement park, haunted house. As expected, professionals do professional things. The quality of the haunted house in the amusement park is much higher than that of Halloween. Whether it is the costumes or the environment, the quality is extremely high. A ghost face appeared in front of him. Shinjo hid back in fear, still holding Mayumi tightly to block it in front of him. Yake said, you are a good brother. Like. The boy was startled and crawled into Yak's arms. Feeling the strong chest and warm body temperature, a sense of security instantly filled the boy's heart. The haunted house is really amazing. After going out, several people sat on the chairs. The boy covered his face, savoring the hug just now. Mayumi smiled so hard that she couldn't straighten her back. Xin Cheng touched his head awkwardly and said dissatisfiedly, laughing at me like this is too much. Who told you to be so scared just now? Mayumi made a face and said jokingly, and you even screamed and scared me to death. He's still a member of the victory team. How embarrassing. Look at Yake. Seeing his sister comparing him with others, Zinken instantly straightened up and wanted to show off his brother's power. But when he heard it was Yak, he instantly wilted. Captain Ye. Yak doesn't count. He is simply not human. When they thought of the scene where Jack bent the steel pipe with one punch, they shuddered all over. It was estimated that the staff members who worked there were scared to death and almost lost their lives while working. Too cruel, too cruel. Hey, look over there. The dead body, Yak, actually sat up and pointed at a few children not far away. Zinken and others looked over there. Those are 4 kids. 2 of the taller ones were pushing Haruki in the middle. It's just a fake ghost. Why are you crying, you coward? It's embarrassing to be with Haruki. You're such a coward to scream so loudly. The little girl next to them, Kaiuzi, stopped them, saying, don't hit anyone. The bully didn't stop, but instead intensified his behavior and said, why don't we go ride the railroad car? Come on. You don't dare to go, you'll be scared to pee your pants, right? Ha 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 ha. The boy couldn't bear to watch it anymore and tugged at Jack's clothes. Stop it, how can you bully others? Zinken stood up before Yake. You, what does it have to do with you? A bully kid bluffed. Hey, you guys are pretty awesome, why don't you come and see me? Jack shouted at them with a smile. The 2 children heard it and fixed their eyes on the man who was sitting with his legs crossed on the chair. Their eyes met. The terrifying aura invaded the soul through the gaze, and a strong smell of blood lingered at the tip of the nose. In the eyes of the children, Jack turned into a ferocious monster. A monster. The 2 children were pale and staggered away. Zinken, go and comfort him. Yak nodded slightly, thinking that it would be most appropriate to entrust this matter to a kind-hearted person like Zinken. Chapter 43. They knew I was afraid of heights and they just wanted to embarrass me in front of my sister. Haruki wiped his tears with a handkerchief. After all, he was still an 11-year-old child. Making a fool of oneself in front of one's sister is a very humiliating thing. Shinjo said, Mayumi, why don't you and Yazi take a Kiko to ride the sightseeing cable car? We boys have something to talk about. What? Sightseeing cable car? The girl shuddered and looked at Yak pitifully. She had been looking forward to this for a long time. Go ahead. Yak nodded. Mayumi, who received the task, squatted in front of the little girl and said, Akira, let's go take the sightseeing cable car, okay? Yet. Akiko looked at Haruki first, and when she saw that her brother agreed, she nodded in agreement. Yazi and Mayumi each held Akiko's hand and walked towards the Ferris wheel, talking and laughing. After the three of them walked away, Xin Cheng sat down and said with a relaxed look, I was born in Okinawa. You won't believe me, but I was a terrible swimmer when I was a kid. Hey, Captain, don't look at me like that. Okinawa is an island close to the ocean, with highly developed fishing and tourism industries. Therefore, most of the locals can swim, and those like Shinjo who can become members of the victory team are the best on Okinawa Island. He can't actually swim, hiss, remember this. Zinken continued, because I'm afraid of water, every time I go to the beach with kids, they make fun of me. However, one time, my sister Mayumi, the older sister just now, almost drowned in the sea. Really? Haruki widened his eyes. Okay. In order to save her, I jumped into the sea without hesitation. At that time, I didn't realize that I was afraid of water. But later I gradually learned to swim. No one made fun of me anymore. Shinjo put his arm around Haruki's shoulders and said earnestly, one day you will have to face what you fear, and you can't back down. Besides, you are the older brother, and you have the obligation to protect your sister at all times, right? Haruki nodded heavily, yes. Ha 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 ha, that's right. Zinken rubbed the boy's head vigorously and immediately changed the subject, has Yak ever been afraid of anything before? Is it my turn now? Yak thought for a moment and said, I'm really not afraid of anything. I can swim, shoot, and fight. I can do almost everything that humans can do. It's really Versailles. But, it is. Zinken felt a lot of pressure when he thought about the captain knowing everything. Yak said, however, for humans, there are always some things that are hard to give up and people who need to risk their lives to protect. These are the source of human courage. It's like you're not human. Zinken's mouth twitched. Yak smiled but said nothing. The two boys who had just bullied Haruki were rummaging through their wallets in distress. Ah Shao, how much money do you have left? Let me see, maybe there's still $1,000 left. I only have 800 yuan here. Mamoru could only say with regret, forget it, the rail car won't leave. Suddenly, the two stopped. A strange thing suddenly grew out from under the grass in front of him, and in just a few seconds it became as tall as two adults. What is this? Mamoru muttered to himself. Like a huge horn. Driven by curiosity, Aisha reached out to touch it. Wen Ye quickly stopped him, don't touch it, it looks scary. Although I was curious, I was still a little scared. Adding to Wen Ye's shout, Aisha was frightened and trembled. In order to hide his fear, Mamoru said loudly, what's the matter, are you scared too? After saying that, he plucked up the courage to touch it. Well, it's a bit like stone, but it's warm and hard. Nothing. Aisha pursed his lips and kicked twice hard. Coax. The ground began to shake and the entire amusement park was shaking. The horns in front of them began to glow, and the two men stepped back in fear. A dazzling beam of light shot out from the tip of the horn and turned into scattered starlight, causing no harm, but giving people an indescribable feeling. The bright light attracted tourists in the amusement park. What's going on? Zinken looked around in confusion. No exception. But Jack smelled it, it was the smell of a monster. Something was wrong, very wrong. Why didn't I notice it at first? Gaidanja hasn't come out yet, there shouldn't be a monster this strong. Ah! A young man fell to the ground, clutching his knee. Zinken ran up, helped the young man up, and asked, what happened? My bike seems to have hit something. Hit something? Shinjo looked around, but there was nothing blocking his view. Stand up and walk forward. Zinken, wait a minute. Yak suddenly called out. What? Zinken stopped and looked at Yak in confusion. There's something in front of you. Thing? What? Zinken thought Yak was joking. But when he reached out to touch, his hand did not fully stretch out, but instead touched a hard, transparent, wall. What's going on? Zinken looked around in disbelief. If Jack hadn't stopped him in time, he would have been in great pain if he had bumped into something. When encountering unexplained anomalies, Zinken would first report to the headquarters. In Jack's eyes, the entire amusement park seemed to be covered by a huge glass cover. You guys come with me. Yak stood up and walked towards the place where the light had just come from, which was the center of the transparent barrier. Several people came to the big horn. Yak finally felt the monster force field, but this was a monster. Why are those with weak force fields the same as humans? The size and strength of an organism will affect its position. The difference between humans and monsters is like the difference between a football and a football field. Not every monster can be as freely restrained as Yak. This can only be done when its own strength reaches a certain level. Tell me what happened. Yak squatted down and poked the horn with his hand. Beside them, Mamoru and Fumi didn't dare to move, fearing that Ark would turn into a monster and eat them. It just, suddenly appeared, from the ground. Ah Xiao was trembling all over, just like a chick that had encountered a weasel. Dong dong dong. The monster under the ground is moving. The horns that had been stretched out quickly retracted, and the earth shook. Yakkei picked up Haruki calmly and took 2 steps back. Everyone, leave where you are. Underground, a huge tentacle swept up A Xiao at lightning speed and dragged him underground. Zinken rushed forward to pull the person away, but was pulled away by another tentacle. A child was dragged into the ground alive. Yak sighed, members of the new city team, it's time to go to work. Chapter 44. Q. Is there anything more difficult than waking up early? Answer. I was forced to go to work during holidays. Headquarters, emergency situation, unidentified cones and tentacles found in the D-Zone amusement park. One of the tentacles dragged a child underground. Zinken urgently reported the situation. Headquarters. All the team members who were originally on vacation gathered together, except Zinken and Yak who were blocked by the transparent barrier. Team members of Yerui projected the situation on the screen through remote scanning. After infrared scanning, I finally saw clearly that it was an invisible wall that covered the entire amusement park. And there are biological reactions. Lena took a look and said in surprise, this is a huge biological reaction. Is it a monster? Dagu was the first to react. Could that invisible wall also be done by a monster? This can't be confirmed now, but there is a high possibility that it is a monster. Nori's final conclusion was very vague. Iruma said, Team member Dako, you drive Hyan 1, Team member Lena and Vice Captain Munikata drive Hyan 2, go to the scene immediately. Understand. Playground. The riot caused by the earthquake quickly spread, and people fled in all directions, hoping to find a place to hide. My son. A mother tried desperately to save her child, but was powerless and could only watch him being taken away. 2 huge tentacles were flying everywhere, picking up children and dragging them underground. Damn it, they only catch children. Zinken gritted his teeth, there was nothing he could do. In the bushes, a tentacle was wrapped around Wen Yi's feet, close to the ground. Haruki grabbed Fumiya's collar and tried to save the child who had bullied him, but the monster was too strong. Haruki could only watch as Wen was taken away. The commotion at the scene did not affect Yak. In reality, human panic, fear, and terror are like ants circling around the solace of Jack's shoes. Headquarters, this is Yak. Yak answered the PDI communicator, can you check the situation on site? Inside the headquarters, Horii speculated, it looks like the monster might want children's hormones. Yerui made up for it, in the cave where the monster appeared, there were life reactions from human children. The monster did not seem to treat them as direct food. There is life reaction. It means it is not to be used as food. There's a strange smell in the air. Yak suddenly thought of something, Team Yerui, use ultrasonic detection immediately. Yes. After a while, over in the command room, Horii shouted in a panic, it's an egg. Sure enough, Yak's guess was correct. The strange smell in the air is the progesterone emitted by a pregnant monster. Yak said, according to my conclusion, the monster captured the children and planned to lay eggs in their bodies. As time went on, the crowd became more and more panicked. Let us out, let us out. Really? What's going on? I don't want to be eaten by monsters. Some people even picked up chairs and stones and hit the transparent barrier, but it was of no use. Asshole, you took the kids away like that. Xin Cheng clenched his fists. Captain, what should we do now? Just as he finished speaking, a gigantic monster emerged from the hole where the tentacles had just stretched out. Barrier monster Gaddy, here we go. Gaddy's entire body is grey-black, with numerous spikes on his back. His huge claws are like those of a mole, except that he has 2 more tentacles in the middle. The eyes with yellow light are also called space eyes. They can see things clearly even in the dark space. They can hide underground and use their tentacles that can be extended or shortened at will to grab what they want. In the distance, 2 victory swallows appeared. On Unit 1, Dagu opened the communication. I have arrived above the D area amusement park and confirmed that a monster has appeared. Okay, start attacking. Vice Captain Zhong Feng couldn't wait to give the order. Understand. Fiyin number 1 aimed at Gaddy and opened fire. The red laser hit the monster right in front of it and was blocked. Dagu said, it's no use, the invisible wall bounces the light back. What? Lena refused to believe it and continued to attack the monster, but was still blocked. The noise startled the monster. It glanced sarcastically at the 2 little bugs outside the transparent barrier, then turned and ran towards the nearest entertainment facility. The monster raised his foot and stepped on the slide, and the steel and wood slide was instantly torn into pieces like a building block. We can't attack from the air. Our weapons are not powerful enough. Jack watched as the Fiyian's attack was ineffective. Not far away was the sightseeing cable car in operation. Not good. With Jack's current eyesight, he can clearly see the highest point of the Ferris wheel, and the boy is still on it. The monster is approaching and it's targeting Kaihuzi. Without any hesitation, Yake ran towards the Ferris wheel. Shinjo and Haruki's faces changed drastically because their sisters were on it. Jack was running very fast. He had no intention of stopping even though there were bushes in front of him. He wanted to rescue the boy as quickly as possible. On the other side, Zinken was not idle either. He shouted to attract the monster's attention just to buy more time for Yak. Hey, monsters are coming to get me, look at me. Come here and catch me. Gaddy, which needs children to give birth to cubs, has no time to care about the new city on the ground. What it needs is Kaizi. Yak came to the bottom of the Ferris wheel and looked left and right. The 3-dimensional structure of the entire Ferris wheel emerged in his mind. Bend your legs and jump up. Like a nimble monkey in the mountains, Jack's core strength is already inhuman, and he uses his hands and feet to roam between the steel pipes. There was no intention of stopping, and his body slid through the intricate and narrow space like a carp. Jack didn't even need to look ahead to see if there were any obstacles, because the Ferris wheel was right in his mind. Although the new city did not succeed in attracting the monster, it did by a few breaths of life. Boom! Outside the cable car, a slender hand slapped on the glass. Ah 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 ah! Do not come! Yazi and Mayumi hugged Akiko, terrified. It's me, don't scream! Jack's big face slowly rose under the glass. Without saying anything, he grabbed the handle and pulled it hard. The cable car door was made of welded metal all over, but it was like paper in front of Jack and was torn apart. After opening the broken door, Jack finally entered the carriage. Yake, I'm scared to death. The boy burst into tears and threw himself into Jack's arms, his body shaking constantly. It's okay, no problem. Yake whispered soothingly. Now, here comes the problem. There are 3 people in the car, and Yak can only carry 2 at most. How to choose? Chapter 45. Only children make choices, I want them all. Yak put his hands behind his back and quietly threw out 2 things. Artificial human Yak replica. Singuries. Destruction. Ruin. Despair. Destruction. Conclusion 1. A red light flashed, and a man in armor appeared in the carriage. I've heard of your name, Captain Yak. Ark! Mayumi exclaimed. The others looked confused, wondering where this person came from and why he looked so strange. Yake stole a glance at Mayumi and saw that she had a good reaction. Mayumi will definitely report what happened today. Once it is reported, it will be confirmed that Yak and Fang Zhou are not the same person. Simply kill 2 birds with 1 stone. What do you want to do? Yak stopped the android and looked at him warily. When doing a show, you have to do the whole thing. Fang Zhou said in a hoarse voice, the monster is approaching, and there are 3 of you. It seems that you can only save 2. It's very confusing. How about this, I'll help you, and Captain Ark, you owe me a favor personally. This is a good deal. Under the Ferris wheel. No matter how hard Shinjo tried, the monster wouldn't even look at him. Gaddy only wants children. Haruki hid in the shade of a tree in the corner, witnessing Shinjo's desperate look and thinking of Akiko still on the Ferris wheel. You are the older brother. No matter what, you have the obligation to protect your sister, right? Everyone has someone to protect. That is the root of human courage. The words of Yake and Zinken kept spinning in his head. I want to protect Akiko. Haruki looked up at the huge monster, but the courage in his heart did not diminish. Not far away, there were 2 go-karts under a black tarp. Haruki started one, muttering to himself, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid at all. Haruki roared at the monster, his adrenaline pumping. Monster, come here, here. The go-kart spun back and forth on the empty road, attracting Gaddy's attention. As for the child, Gaddy indeed walked away from the Ferris wheel and walked towards Haruki. On the Ferris wheel, the others also noticed that the monster had changed direction. Fang Zhou smiled and said, it looks like a brave kid has taken action. This is a rare opportunity, Captain Ark. Make a deal. Yake nodded. Can't help but explain. Fang Zhou carried Mayumi in one hand and held Akiko in the other. He pushed his feet and unexpectedly used the force from thin air to jump to a safe area. Let's go too. Ah! Jack held the boy in his arms and swung down the steel pipe of the Ferris wheel to the ground. Well, the quality is quite poor. But in the boy's eyes, Yak was shining. Reach the ground. Finally, we are safe for the time being. Captain, Haruki went to attract the monster. Shinjo hugged Mayumi. Yake said, Team Shinjo, go help Haruki. Fang Zhou and I will deal with the monster, and the rest of us will hide. Quick, quick, take action. The boy was dragged away by Mayumi reluctantly, and Shinjo went to chase Haruki. No one was around. Yak signaled Fang Zhou with his eyes and turned on the communicator to connect to the headquarters. Headquarters, this is Yak. Do you have any way to support me as soon as possible? Headquarters received, we have analyzed the composition of the invisible wall. Team member Yerui said quickly, this is a substance similar to hydrogen, we plan to use liquid nitrogen to freeze it instantly. This will cause the molecules to become chaotic, and the wall may even disintegrate automatically. Team member Horii has already rushed over. Please, hold on a little longer. Clear. Yakshin relaxed his shoulders and had to do it himself. He quickly took off the android's belt and put it on himself. In an instant, the two exchanged identities. He casually threw the PDI to the android and lightly pressed it on the belt. Malice. Horror. Anger. Disgust. Despair. Struggle. Murderous intention. Destruction. Extinction. Destruction. Perfect conclusion. Learning end. All learned. Yak leaped up, and the murderous hostility became tangible and lingered around him, dragging under his body like a long scarlet tail. Seeing such obvious murderous intent, Gaddy reacted instantly. He didn't care about the ants running around on the ground and raised his tentacles to eliminate the threat. Useless. Yak put his thumb on the tentacle and used the force to rush towards the monster's head. The huge horn of Gaddy is just around the corner. Without any hesitation, he kicked the corner. Boom! A huge explosion exploded above Gaddy's head. After being hit hard, the whole beast became dazed. Its horns, which were originally extremely hard, now had cracks and countless fine cracks. It will take at least 40 or 50 years to restore it. SS. Gaddy felt more heartache than physical pain. She had finally grown such beautiful horns, how could she find a boyfriend in the future? The anger in its heart continued to grow, and it wanted that human to die. Although Gaddy is big and looks scary, when it comes to agility, it can't even match the shadow of Yak. Boom boom boom. A series of explosions occurred in different parts of the monster. The slow-moving Gaddy had no way to stop it, so he just ignored it since he had a lot of health anyway. Gaddy turned around and chased after Haruki and Shinjo. What a headache! Yak squatted on the corner of Gaddy, and the monster under him didn't even want to pay attention to him. Hey! The victory team is here. Far away. Horii drove Unit 1 from the Far East headquarters and fired a freezing ray at the transparent barrier. In an instant, the extremely solid wall disintegrated on its own. The specks of debris fell and disappeared like heavy snow in winter. Everyone on the victory team, launch an attack. On the ground, the androids that served as decoration opened the PDI as instructed and gave orders to all members of the operations department. Understand. Dagu and Lena opened fire at the same time, and this time, the attack finally hit the monster. The red laser is a weapon that Ark has modified, and it is incredibly powerful. Hiss! Ah! Gaddy roared in pain. The tentacles on the hands were swung out, and the movement was not fast, but the tentacles were relatively flexible and could extend and shorten freely. The Unit 1 piloted by Daiguo clearly dodged it, but the tentacles suddenly grew longer and hit the engine. As a last resort, Daiguo had to make an emergency landing in the amusement park. The power system has failed, and now it is an emergency landing to rescue tourists on the ground. Be careful of its tentacles. Captain Zhongfeng reminded Lena. Clear. With one fighter plane missing, Gaddy's pressure dropped drastically, and he endured the damage and went after Haruki. The monster waved its long tentacles and kept hitting the cart, trying to stop the two people. On both sides of the cart, the trees, tables, and chairs were smashed to pieces by the tentacles. Xingqian drove the car with one hand while turning his body to keep a close eye on the monster. Get down! Shinjo turned the steering wheel sharply, held down Haruki's hand, and narrowly avoided the whip. But it was at this moment that the cart drove into the ditch. The two were thrown out. Xingqian shook his head and tried to stand up, but the previous blow twisted his ankle. The monster is approaching, and Shinjo can only helplessly protect Haruki and beg God to save the child. Chapter 46. Ho ho ho. Just. Two different battle cries sounded at the same time. Boom. Gaddy's tentacles were like hitting a 1,000-year-old city wall. He pulled it, but couldn't pull it back. Ultraman Tiga, and Godzilla. Haruki's eyes lit up. Because both of them have defeated many monsters, many people, especially children, have gradually fallen in love with Tiga and Godzilla. Some people like Tiga who risked his life to save humanity. Some like Godzilla's ferocious and powerful strength. Yake said, haha, Tiga's human form, you arrived just in time. Fang Zhou, why are you here? Daiguo cautiously kept a distance. It's like a mouse meeting a cat, but in the end, it still doesn't have the confidence to defeat Godzilla. Yake looked down at him and explained tirelessly, thank your Captain Yake. If I hadn't made a small deal with him, I wouldn't have helped you. Although, I do enjoy studying monsters. Studying monsters? Daiko remembered that every time Godzilla defeated a monster, he would always take out something like a recorder to scan the monster. I think it's also for research. At first, Lena guessed that this behavior was a bit like checking in and taking photos. But as soon as this idea was put forward, it was unanimously rejected by everyone. Could Godzilla be that boring? I'm not here for tourism. Dagu asked, what on earth did you do with Captain Yak? If you dare to hurt him, I will not let you go. In Dagu's heart, Yak is like a bright light, guiding him forward. Although the self-criticism was difficult to write, he believed that the captain was training him. You. Yak was hesitant to speak. It was a bit unkind to fool such a foolish teammate like this. Zhang opened his mouth and said, don't worry, it's just a small favor. By the way, you take this monster. Yak suddenly had an idea and wanted to test Dagu's current level. He grabbed the tentacle in his hand and threw it directly at Dagu's face, regardless of whether Gadol was willing or not. Hey, what are you doing? Suddenly, Dagu was a little panicked, but after fighting monsters for a long time, he has grown a lot. Tiga pushed forward with both hands, and as he sank his hands, a full 69,000 tons were directly lifted up. Good strength. Yak's eyes lit up. He could see that under Tiga's muscles, a steady stream of energy was flowing from the core to his limbs. Strengthened muscles can exert strength far beyond their natural capabilities. Dagu turned around a few times on the spot and used throwing skills to throw the monster out. Boom! A beautifully trimmed forest was crushed by the falling trees. Having the upper hand, Dagu pressed on and jumped on Gaddy. He raised his fist and punched Gaddy on the head again and again, which indirectly caused the chipped horn to become even more shaky. Hiss! Gaddy struggled hard to break free, wrapped Tiga's throat with his tentacles and threw him out. It just happened to be the direction where Yak was. Human form, you still need to practice. Yak blocked with one claw, then pulled it to the side, and used the power of Gaddy to throw Tiga aside. Dong dong dong! Dagu rolled several times and when he got up he looked in a terrible state. Although it's a bit old, compared to before, the timer on the chest is still a blue light. Win the fight. Godzilla disappeared on the spot, and Yak was suspended in the air with a cup of tea in his hand. Half of the mask disappeared, and he sipped the tea carefully. Oh, not bad. Hey, Tiga human form, change to the red powerful form now. Yagzu sat on Tiga's shoulder, transferred his energy into Tiga's body, marked the weaknesses and flaws, and began to give personal instructions. Haruki, an ordinary human being, is able to overcome his fear and attract monsters. Although Yak was able to save the boy, he was also indebted to him. It is understandable that he is now transferring the blame to Daegu. Daegu crossed his hands on his forehead and moved them downwards. The Tiga composite type has become a powerful type that prioritizes strength. Attack. Clear. For a moment, Daegu seemed to feel that it was Captain Yak who gave the order. Oh, how is that possible? Captain Ark is just a person who transcends ordinary humans, so he must be overthinking it. Tiga jumped high and smashed down the monster's raised arms, testing his fighting skills on Gatti mercilessly. Seeing that the situation was not good, Gatti used the same trick again and tried to roll up Tiga with his tentacles. But Tiga was already in his powerful form, his strength was about twice as much as before, and he directly and violently tore off the tentacles wrapped around his neck. The one who lost his tentacle screamed and fell to the ground. Daegu wanted to take advantage of the victory, but Gatti played a trick. He stood up quickly and clamped Tiga's neck with his claws. Obviously, it didn't realize how big the gap between the two was. Tiga took away Gatti's claws with one hand and kicked the testicles in Gatti's abdomen again and again. As you can imagine, such a heavy blow almost broke all the eggs in the stomach. This monster has been breeding these things since ancient times, and now they have all been destroyed by Daegu in one fell swoop. Well done! Everyone in the headquarters cheered. The monster's eggs are too dangerous. Once they hatch, the entire Earth will suffer a catastrophe. Even if the mother dies, the eggs in the embryonic state may hatch prematurely once they sense danger, which is extremely dangerous for the members of the monster cleaning team. Now, Ultraman Tiga has helped them eliminate such a big trouble. The egg was gone, and Gatti instantly went berserk, even the claws in his hands became more powerful. Daegu was thrown out without noticing. He rolled on the ground to release the force, then stood up and assumed a fighting stance. Gatti gathers energy into the horns on his head and releases a red destructive beam to attack Tiga. With the blessing of Yak energy, Daegu easily determined that I could withstand this attack. He just straightened up the 3-line armor on his chest and absorbed the light. Snapped. The destructive ray exploded in Tiga's chest, but it only made Tiga take 2 steps back and he was not hurt at all. Jack, who was drinking tea, raised his eyebrows. Wow, he is indeed a real warrior. He doesn't even dodge. The main point is, if you can bear it, there is no need to hide, if you can't bear it, you can't hide. Daegu, you know how to have fun. Several destructive beams didn't cause any damage at all, and everyone in Gatti was dumbfounded. Is this guy so tough? While Gatti was stunned, Daegu leaped up and punched Gatti on the corner. Click! Finally, with the unremitting efforts of Yak and Daegu, the horn was broken. The horn-breaking demon Tiga officially comes out. Yak was also not idle. He took out his camera to record the historic moment. Photo, the horn-breaking maniac. Characters, Gatti, Ultraman Tiga. Travel points, 300 points. The horn on his head broke off, and he retreated repeatedly, covering his head with his hands, completely losing the will to continue fighting. Use your ultimate move. Seeing that the time was ripe, Yak reminded Daegu. Daegu nodded, and gathered his arms from left to right, gathering high-density ultra-high thermal light energy particles in front of his chest. A stream of Dalakam light hit Gatti, and Gatti was completely destroyed in the flames rising into the sky. Yak had already disappeared in mid-air, leaving only one sentence, Tiga's human body, see you later. Ground. Ark, who teleported over, put away the android and found Shinjo and Haruki. Daegu suddenly appeared from nowhere and asked urgently, Captain Yak, what did you promise Fang Zhou? That is, why did that man named Fang Zhou rescue Mayumi? Shinjo was also very curious. Yak explained, it's just a personal favor. Don't worry, he can't influence me. That's good. Daegu and Shinjo breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, it was already dusk. The boy ran towards Yak in the orange sunlight, you scared me to death. Seeing this scene, the others also left tactfully. Why are you crying? It's just a small matter. So you do such a dangerous job every day. The boy said worriedly, how about, you quit your job and we open a bakery? Jack twitched his lips and said, if you care about me, you might as well care about the monsters I beat. But he said, it's okay. It's not like this is dangerous every day. I just happened to run into it today. Really? Then what is your position? Why do the members of the victory team call you captain? Aren't you a clerk? Ahem, I just got promoted a few days ago. I'm not from the victory team, I'm just the team leader in charge of logistics. Oh. Like this. Chapter 47. On the rough coast, the waves splash on the rocks of various shapes, forming white foam. Night fishing has always been one of the entertainment activities for anglers. Although this cannot change the outcome of the Air Force, happiness is over. Tonight is no exception. You've taken the bait, Harasuk, hurry up. Hearing his companion's shouts, the man hurriedly joined in the pulling. Zi. When it was about to be pulled up, the power station not far away was enveloped by a green light, and suddenly the entire power station exploded. My fish! Yuan Ji looked at the fishing rod that had slipped out of his hand with a sad look on his face. Victory swallow number 1. We have arrived above the new development zone, but the sensors have not shown any abnormal response. Sitting in the driving seat, Daegye was observing the situation outside. The sea was calm. On the fighter plane's screen, the captain warned, be careful, although it was only for a moment, there was indeed an abnormally strong biological reaction in that area. In the passenger seat, Yak propped his head up and leaned against the window. The biological detector has been modified by me, and the probability of error is very small. After that, Yak sighed again, fishermen are fishermen. They always encounter things that ordinary people can hardly encounter. Fian One flew close to the sea surface, trying to detect some abnormal phenomena. Daegye said, the creature's reaction was so strong that it was recorded. How could it suddenly disappear? The victory team and even the entire operations department would not doubt the accuracy of the modified biological detector. Because this is produced by Captain Yak. But now there is not even a trace of movement, which is very unusual. Yak sighed and checked the time. Dagu's time has come. Let's go back to the base. If we continue investigating, we will have to pay double overtime. Today, it is Yak's turn to be on duty again. Attendance is another price. Clear. Dagu responded and turned to fly towards the headquarters. TPC Far East Headquarters, Command Room. The captain of the intermediate team looked at the two people who had returned and greeted them, you have worked hard. It's really hard. It should be done. Yak and Daegye said different things, but everyone thought it was okay. They knew that if Captain Yak said something like it's my duty or it's my responsibility, it would be the end of the world. Daegye said, we patrolled 100 miles and found nothing unusual. I have also used satellite radar to detect the area, and there was no response similar to that of a monster. Lena sat next to Team Yerui and helped. The captain nodded and said, it is necessary to continue monitoring and remain vigilant. Oh, right. Team member Horii said mysteriously, wait for me. Soon, he came up carrying a small box. After opening it, there were small cylinders inside and I couldn't tell what they were. Team member Horii introduced, this is called a monster tracker. As long as you shoot this bullet at the monster, it will emit a special particle signal. No matter where the monster is, it can be detected with a small radar. Things that were previously impossible to track with radar and detectors are no longer a problem with this. Horii's new gadget made Irumake nod happily and said, in that case, team member Horii, please go to the scene. Wait a minute, I'll go too. Yak, who had been dozing off, suddenly became alert. What? If I remember correctly, Captain Yak will take a day off tomorrow. Is this really the Captain Ark I know? Everyone's eyes widened, unable to believe this was true. Yak's face darkened instantly, hey, you guys are just stereotyping me. Can't I just work hard on a whim? Dagu said seriously, okay, but it's not normal. 5,000 words of self-reflection, come back and check. Ah. The next day, early in the morning. Ake and Horii drove the Sherlock car to the new development area of Chiba Bay. The two came to the largest hotel in the newly developed area, ready to start from here and settle down. At the front desk, Horii found the staff. "Hello, I am Horii, a member of the TPC Victory team. Have you heard any strange noises or is there anything wrong?" "No." The staff shook his head and said, "Everything is normal." Seeing that he could not get any information, Horii did not force it. Then Captain Yak. "Hey? What about people?" Horii turned his head and saw that Yak, who was behind him just now, had disappeared. Hotel, outdoor swimming pool. Horii sat in a chair, panting from exhaustion. After investigating for a long time, there was still no clue at all, and no one knew where the captain had gone. Logically speaking, something like the destruction of a power station shouldn't be handled so calmly. It's totally against common sense. "Horii-san, don't be so discouraged. You have to take your time when investigating something like this." A familiar voice came from behind. Horii was startled. It was Captain Ark. "Turn around and look." I don't know when Yak changed into beach pants, put on sunglasses, and happily applied sunscreen to the young lady. Or wiped the thigh. "Oh, Mr. Yak, you are really good at it." The woman put her hands on Yak's firm abdominal muscles, her eyes almost dripping with tears. "Do you have time tonight? I would like you to help me apply sunscreen." Hiss. Horii was filled with grief and anger. No wonder Captain Yak wanted to come out with me. It turns out Miyoshi is here. It's just that he's handsome, holds a high position and has strong abilities. I'm not envious. Before Jack could continue to wipe the front, Horii dragged Jack away. "Well, Captain Horii, the deadline given by Captain Nakama hasn't arrived yet. Let's take a break for 2 days. I'll introduce you to some young ladies. I just added a dozen of them. Captain Yak, the monster matter takes priority. Let's find some clues and then take a break for 2 days." Although Jack's suggestion was very tempting, Horii still gritted his teeth and refused to give in. "Okay then." Seeing that he couldn't get rid of her, Yak could only agree, and then said, "By the way, I heard some rumors." "What rumors?" Horii was exhausted from the previous investigation and had no hope for Jack. Yak picked up the juice on the table and took a sip. "Recently, the residential area of Chiba Bay has inexplicably lost power. The hotel also suddenly lost power for a few days, and the reason cannot be found." "Where did you hear this?" Yak shrugged. "Just the girls who added me. Maybe. I applied sunscreen better. Damned." Horii's back teeth were broken. "The front desk told me there was nothing wrong. In fact, this is normal. TPC usually arrives in emergencies. Once a hotel is involved, it may have to close down. The date is tentatively determined. How can this hotel tell the truth?" Chapter 48. Look at you. You've been fiddling with it for a long time but still can't get anything out of it. Having gained the upper hand, Yak was shocked and began to talk non-stop. "In my opinion, we should take a break for 2 days, and then we can integrate into the local residents and get any intelligence we want. Am I right? Team Horii." "Horii? Why isn't Horii talking?" Yak glanced to the side in confusion. "What the hell? I'm such a big team member." Looking around, Horii seemed to be attracted by something and followed a man. Originally, Horii was still listening. "But suddenly I saw a familiar figure. Because I was afraid of losing him, I forgot to tell Yak. Ryasuke." Horii followed for a long time and finally shouted this. Up ahead, the man stopped. Horii walked up quickly, saw the man's face, and said excitedly, "I knew it was you. I can't believe I met you here." Ryasuke Sanada, Research Director of the Space Development Center. The two people who had been reunited after a long time finally had time to sit together and chat. "Horii, I heard that you did a good job in the victory team." Ryasuke said calmly. Horii waved his hands and said modestly, "No, it's just so-so. By the way, I heard that you are the director of the Space Development Center, right? In fact, compared to doing research, I would rather join the victory team and be active on the front line." Speaking of this, Ryasuke crossed his arms, and his eyes could not help but show envy for Horii. Horii comforted him, "For someone as dumb as me to be able to join the winning team, it's mostly luck. Although you were not admitted, I believe you can make a difference in the Space Development Center. Do not." Ryasuke looked at Horii and said, "You got in based on your ability. You have the special inspiration to be an inventor, and you also have a cheerful personality that can adjust the team atmosphere. The selection of the victory team is very strict, and the few who have made it so far are all the elite among the elite. Hiss. Ryasuk covered his chest, the pain was unbearable. What's wrong with you? Seeing his friend's strange behavior, Horii immediately stood up and helped Ryasuk back to the room to rest. Along the way, Ryasuk was sweating profusely from the pain. Why don't I take you to see a doctor? Horii suggested. No, don't. Come to room 713. A woman was standing at the door, seemingly waiting for someone. You're Sayaka. This familiar gentle temperament made Horii stay where he was. I didn't expect to meet two friends I hadn't seen for a long time while on a mission. Sayaka saw Ryasuk in pain and walked forward anxiously. Ryasuk, you're having another attack. Let's go to the hospital for a checkup. Facing his two good friends, Ryasuk showed no appreciation. None of your business is my business. He pushed away Horii who was supporting him, stumbled back into his room and slammed the door shut. Behind the door, Ryasuk sat down on the ground weakly, his entire body soaked with sweat. There was no choice but for Sayaka and Horii to leave. The two walked side by side. Horii said, it was unexpected enough to meet Ryasuk, but I also met you, Sayaka. What a coincidence. This is not a coincidence. In fact, I came here with Ryasuk. Sayaka said in a heavy tone. What happened? After being in the victory team for a long time, Horii has become more sensitive to abnormal events. Sayaka said, this happened 3 months ago. One day, Ryasuk suddenly found me. At first he was very healthy, but then he gradually became strange. Like just now. Horii was dumbfounded. Yes. Sayaka looked worried, he said he wanted to come here to rest. I was worried, so I came to see him. That's it. Horii nodded, not quite understanding. It seems necessary to report to the captain. In front of room 713. Yak turned on the communicator and read the report sent by Horii. In fact, since he met Ryasuk, Ark has been monitoring him. At first, Ryasuk was very normal. Normal is exactly the same as ordinary people. But as the two were talking, Ryasuk suddenly had a seizure. At this moment, Yak saw it. All the cells in Sanada Ryasuk's body became active. They devoured each other hungrily, squeezing out every bit of nutrients in this body. This is mutation, the cells have mutated. In room 713. Ryasuk lay on the sofa and turned on the recorder tremblingly. It's starting to break out. Could it be a side effect of the experiment? Suddenly, Ryasuk felt something and raised his hand to take a look. A terrifying scene happened. His hands began to emit green light and began to fester and scab over. The speed is so fast that it is unimaginable. Sanada Ryasuk, former research director of the Space Development Center, resigned without reason 3 months ago and then disappeared. His whereabouts are unknown. There was a second voice in the room where there was only one person. In an instant, Ryasuk forgot the pain in his hand, picked up the fruit knife on the table and looked around for the source of the sound. He shouted in panic, "Who are you? Come out! Come out!" He was so scared that his whole body was like a wounded beast, tense up at the slightest sign of trouble. No need to look for it, I'm here. A slender figure walked out from behind the curtain. It was a man dressed in full armor, emitting a dangerous aura. Ryasuk said tremblingly, Who are you? My name is Fang Zhou. As a former member of TPC, you should know me. Yak smiled slightly. Ark. Ryasuk chewed on these 2 words and he remembered them. A colleague once said that Fang Ark is a mysterious man who can control monsters, and no one knows where he came from. The victory team did not deliberately block the news about the Ark. Tisk 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 tisk. Yak walked up and circled around Ryasuk. How ironic, Director Sanada of the Research Center. What do you mean? Yak said, you actually used yourself for human experiments. In this regard, I don't know whether I should call you a beast. Ah! The great pain made Ryasuk kneel on the ground, and his arms began to mutate. The human skin was replaced by a dark crust and the fingers became long claws. Yak leaned over and whispered in Ryasuk's ear, it's so pitiful. The things in your body are telling you that if you don't replenish them with energy, they will eat you. Go away. Ryasuk swung his arm, and his sharp claws scratched the armor. Snapped. Yak was completely embedded in the wall. The seemingly powerful attack did not cause any harm to Yak. By the time Yak pulled himself out of the wall, Ryusuk had already escaped by jumping out the window. Yak rolled his eyes and said unhappily, "The local monsters are so rude. They left without even saying hello and left the guests here." Chapter 49. Next to the outdoor swimming pool. The bustling crowds during the day had all dispersed, and Horii was sitting alone on a chair, eating instant noodles. "My dear team member Horii, the moon is so round tonight, but you are only eating instant noodles. Isn't that a bit of a spoiler?" Yake happily put down the food in his hand and pushed it in front of Horii. "Try it, the Chinese delicacy longjong pork trotter rice." A steaming lunch box was placed in front of me, with fresh green vegetables and fragrant pig's feet. Horii swallowed and involuntarily put down the instant noodles in his hand. "Captain, where did you get this? It's delicious." Horii was eating voraciously, looking very delicious. Yake said, "You have to find delicious food yourself. It won't just grow legs and run to you." "Ahoy!" Horii nodded, his hands moving without slowing down. "Captain, what were you doing for so long?" Even when eating, he still doesn't forget about work. No wonder he is favored by the victory team. The struggle was too intense, which seriously affected Yak's efficiency in slacking off. As for me, I went to meet a very interesting person. Jack glanced at the power station not far from the hotel. Under normal circumstances, that is the only place where a large amount of electricity can be obtained to replenish its own needs. Dong dong dong. The ground began to shake, but Ark and Horii were sure it wasn't an earthquake. Because once there are signs of a natural disaster, they will immediately receive an early warning from headquarters. So there is only one possibility. The monster is coming. Horii put down the food in his hand, climbed over the fence, and found an open place to observe the situation. Looking around, he found that the power station not far away was falling apart, as if something was trying to get out. Boom! The entire power station was blown apart. It was a monster. The alien-evolved monster Ebron is here. The large bones on both sides of Ebron's head are stronger than special alloys and can withstand strong impacts. The huge claws looked incredibly powerful, but Jack recognized them at a glance. Ryusuk Sanada. Yak shook his head. His willpower was too weak to control the cells in his body, so he completely lost control. Now Ryusuk can only be regarded as a beast controlled by cells. Horii is calling the headquarters. A monster has appeared in the energy center of the newly developed zone. Horii reported to the headquarters immediately. In the command room, the rest of the people did not leave the Far East headquarters. Just waiting for news from the two people on duty. The captain of the intermediate team said, "The biological reaction last night was caused by this monster. We must not let it escape." "Understood. Leave it to me." The victory swallows set out in unison. On the other side, Horii and the other person also started to take action. Yak took the hyper gun equipped with a monster tracker and headed for the energy center with Horii piloting the Sherlock. The earthquake just now woke up almost everyone in the hotel. After seeing the true face of the monster, no one had time to pack up and they all ran for their lives. Along the way, there were fleeing humans everywhere. In order to avoid it, Horii could only drive the car left and right, making Jack miserable. After a beautiful drift, Sherlock turned his car sideways towards the monster. Yake yawned listlessly, raised his hand and fired a shot without even looking. "Mission accomplished, let's retreat." Horii was stunned. "Captain Yak, what are you doing?" Without any explanation, a detector was thrown into Horii's arms. Surprisingly, the monster tracker has started working and Jack has hit it. "No, is it really that outrageous? Is Captain Ark really human?" "Dear team member Horii, come back to your senses." Yake kindly reminded, "The shot I just made hit the joint gap, so it was painful. Now, the monster is targeting us. If you don't run away, you will be turned into minced meat." Sherlock's car was all yellow, and it was very eye-catching even at night. The pain in his joints restored a trace of human emotion to Ebron. "Come on." Horii stepped on the accelerator and almost put his foot into the fuel tank. Wow! Sherlock's car roared and jumped 7 or 8 meters in an instant. Where he had originally stopped, a large footprint was left by Ebron. "Fortunately, I ran fast, otherwise the banquet would have started." Yake patted the frightened Horii and said, "Relax, you won't die." Then he turned on the communication device in the car. "Victory team attack." "Clear." Clear. Just as the monsters were about to launch a second wave of attack, Victory Swallows 1 and 2 arrived at the same time and opened fire on Ebron. The red lasers fired continuously, hitting Ebron without missing a single one. Clap clap clap. Cracks began to appear on the part of the body where Ebron was hit, and huge amounts of steam rose. The attack was effective. Daegyu did not hesitate and flipped Fei in number 1 in the sky and dived towards the monster. Prepare for the second wave of attack. After absorbing enough energy and being attacked again, Ryusuk in Ebron's body finally regained his human consciousness. It looked at its unrecognizable body on the verge of collapse and had no desire to fight anymore. A large amount of plasma energy emerged from Ebron's body, layered like lightning, and finally disappeared on the battlefield. Captain, the monster has disappeared, said Daegyu. I saw it. Yake looked at the time. Everyone retreat and rest for a night. Tomorrow, Hori and I will continue to investigate the monster's traces. But collect the team. Understand? Yak knew very well that Sanada Ryusuk understood that he had turned into a monster, which almost shattered all his pride. Now he was probably doubting his life, so there was no way he would come out to cause trouble. Early the next morning, Hori knocked on Jack's door and dragged Jack up impatiently. Ah! Captain Hori, I know you're in a hurry, but can you please let me sleep for a while? If you don't get enough sleep, your skin will deteriorate and you will age. Do you know how much harm this is to a human being? Jack was sleepy, but he kept mumbling. Question, the captain is a bed-sitter. What can be done to cure this problem? I'm just trying to persuade him with kind words. Why, do you still want him to write a self-criticism? After much persuasion from Hori, Jack finally got up. Out of the hotel. Hori was still struggling to figure out how to find the missing monster, but somehow the detector started ringing on its own. This means that the monster from last night is nearby. The two followed the instructions and came to the open-air swimming pool. As lively as it was yesterday, it is as desolate today. How could a monster be in the swimming pool? Hori tilted his head, wondering if the detector was broken. Plop! A figure suddenly jumped out of the empty swimming pool. Hori was startled. When he saw clearly, he said in surprise, Ryusuk, it turned out to be you. Chapter 50. Ryusuk squatted on the edge of the swimming pool, looking lonely. Hori, do you still remember the game 5 years ago? What match? Hori didn't react to the inexplicable words. Let's see who can hold his breath the longest in the water. Ryusuk smiled inadvertently. He missed that time very much. The winner will be eligible to be Sayaka's boyfriend. Just like a little kid. I remember. Hori also remembered that this was indeed the case. It is well known to everyone that Ryusuk likes Sayaka. But I lost the bet I made, which was very hurtful to my self-esteem. I lost to you at that time, but now I will definitely win because I have been reborn. Ryusuk stared at Hori with bloodshot eyes. Without waiting for Hori to speak, he jumped into the swimming pool and swam to the other side at an extremely fast speed. He left without looking back. This is a love story that makes one very curious. Yake had a cup of tea in his hand and poked Hori with his elbow. Will you tell me about it in detail when you get back? Love triangles and such are the most interesting. Drop drop drop. Not long after Ryusuk came ashore, the monster detector sounded. Woohoo! It looks like we found our target. Yake narrowed his eyes and patted Hori's shoulder. Don't be sad, at least we found someone, didn't we? Above the hotel. Victory Swallow number 1 retracted its flanks and landed on the ground. Daegyu and Zinken came to look for someone. Well, have you had breakfast? Have some tea first. Jack enthusiastically handed over the teacup in his hand. No. Daegyu and the other man waved their hands repeatedly. Captain of the intermediary asked us to ask if they have found the whereabouts of the monster. Ah. Hori nodded dully, still not recovering from what just happened. Where is the monster? In the face of Daiko's question, Hori did not answer. I would like to ask you for a favor first. Please help me investigate the current situation of Sanada Ryusuk at the Space Development Center. You can ask me about that. Yake came over slowly. I have read all these materials. What? Hori and Daegyu looked like they had seen a ghost. No, why are you looking at these things? Yake shrugged. As a member of the operations department, it makes sense for you to know the personnel arrangements of the hand and foot department. This is unreasonable. Daegyu and others shook their heads at the same time. Ryusuk resigned 3 months ago. His previous project was the Ebron cells contained in the cosmic meteorites can greatly enhance the abilities of living things. Yake was talking to himself, and Horii's expression became worse and worse. It is now clear that Ryusuk Sanada transplanted alien cells into himself for human experiments. Now the experiment has failed and I have gotten myself involved. Hori, what's wrong with you? Daegu asked carefully. Horii opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say for a moment. His friend turned into a monster and he, as a member of the winning team, must protect humanity. The conflict between the two made Horii's mind a mess. Do whatever you want to do, and don't leave any regrets. An angelic voice sounded in Horii's ears. When I looked up, it was Captain Yak. Human life is short. If we always worry about this and that, it will be too boring. Yak pulled out a gun called Ladysmith from his waist and threw it to Horii. I'll lend it to you. Remember to return it to me. Ladysmith, also known as the Elegant Gun. There are only 2 people who own the entire TPC, one is Yak and the other is Akumake. This action shows that all of Horii's actions today were authorized by Yak. If there is a problem, he will take it. Horii bowed solemnly, thank you, Captain. After saying that, he turned around and went to find Ryusuk to ask for clarification. The rest of you will gather your forces. I will continue my investigation mission. Yake waved and went back to the hotel humming a little tune. In the hotel restaurant, there were very few guests. Ryusuk, wearing a neat suit, found Sayaka who was sitting quietly. The two had already made an appointment to have a simple meal together. Before dinner, let's go for a walk on the beach, okay? Okay. Sayaka readily agreed to Ryusuk's suggestion. In the corner, a man was reading a newspaper and sipping his tea. However, this suggestion made it difficult for Horii, who was looking for Ryusuk. At the door of room 713, Horii pressed the doorbell again and again. There was no response. Drop drop drop. The PDI communicator rang. When I opened it, it was a message from Yak. Seaside. Horii was completely puzzled by these 2 meaningless words. Captain, what does this mean? Can I go to the beach? With the idea of believing in the captain, you will gain eternal life. Horii drove the Sherlock towards the beach. On the beach of Chiba Bay, a man and a woman were walking side by side. The sea breeze carried a hint of saltiness, and the waves surged up and down, pushing small fish and shrimps to the shore. My parents are both very talented scientists, so I had a lot of pressure at a very young age. Ryusuk walked in front, and the surging waves were just like his current mood, no matter what, I must take first place. Everything was going well before entering university. But when I entered university, I met Horii. The two were very good friends in college, but Ryusuk felt very complicated when he thought of Horii. I had 2 failures, the first, I couldn't make the winning team, but he did. The other time, I was dumped by you. With every word spoken, the jealousy, anger, and resentment in Ryusuk's heart grew. The Ebron cells began to affect Ryusuk's heart, and the hidden darkness and negative emotions were magnified. That's not the case. Sayaka tried to explain. But now Ryusuk simply couldn't listen, that's not the case. Then tell me what it is like, hiss. The Ebron cells in Ryusuk's body began to move again. They were dissatisfied with the host's tiny body, which compressed their energy supply and living environment. Now, he is just a slave of Ebron. Seeing this, Sayaka stepped forward and asked with concern, Ryusuk, what's wrong with you? Are you having an attack again? Coincidentally, Horii arrived at this time. Seeing my old friend suffering from pain made me feel really bad. Come on, I'll take you to TPC Medical Center for a checkup. Believe me, there will be a way. Ryusuk pushed Horii away and said fiercely, this is not an illness. I want to take first place, I must take first place. If I'm not number 1, no one will love me. The pressure he has had since birth has been with him as he grows up. To him, the first one is like life. Ryusuk, you're wrong. Sayaka stood up and said earnestly, like Horii, although his legs are short, he's fat and he always tells boring jokes, it can be said that he has many shortcomings. Horii? My friend, what you said is a bit presumptuous. In the far corner, Yake was almost laughing madly. It's fine that there's a love triangle, but poor team member Horii, who is a honest man, has to be teased in front of everyone. But even though he has so many shortcomings, everyone still loves him. Sayaka's eyes were filled with tears. Horii stood aside, mumbling, wanting to say something but stopping himself, but finally he endured it. You two don't understand me at all. Ryusuke refused to listen. In his eyes, everyone was trying to harm him. I have always wanted to be first since I was very young. I grew up like this. How can you possibly understand me? Ryusuke turned around and tried to escape from this sad place, but was grabbed by Horii. Ryusuke was so angry that he lost his mind and grabbed Horii and threw him out. It weighed a full 180 kilograms and flew 2 or 3 meters high. Wah-ah-ah-ah! Horii screamed in panic. Just when it was about to land, a figure suddenly appeared, and a strong arm caught it steadily. All right, stop shouting. Horii opened his eyes and saw Captain Ark. Chapter 51. Captain. Horii's touching and affectionate call made Jack shudder all over. The hand loosened. Pat. Horii slept on the floor. Dirty, I feel dirty. Yake quietly took a step back. Instead of thanking me, you should be concerned about your good friend Ryusuke now. Your good friend is no longer a human being. After the transplant of Ebrin cells, they have been eroding Ryusuke's will and magnifying the dark side of his heart. Tempt him to shed his human body and move towards a greater path. But Ryusuke had one thing that Yake hadn't expected. After he turned into a monster, he didn't hurt Horii and Sayaka. Incredible. Incomprehensible. Excuse me, are you Captain Ark? Sayaka walked forward and grabbed Yake's shoulder. Ryusuke. Ryusuke. After all these years of getting along, Sayaka still has feelings for Ryusuke, and even likes him a little. Yake flicked the woman's hand away without leaving a trace, and said in a businesslike manner, this is the situation. Our operations department is still discussing the details. Please be patient. Deep down, Jack didn't like this woman. After so many years, even a fool would know the situation of Horii and Ryusuke, but it is still stuck after so many years. If you don't like something, just say it directly. If you like something, say it even more directly. What's the point of hanging someone in the air? Yake kicked Horii on the ground and said, stop pretending to be dead. Get up and work. After that, he turned on the communicator and connected to the Victory Team's call network. Hello, this is Yak, a monster has appeared. Horii and Lena went to the hotel to cover the guests' retreat, while Deiko and Shinjo launched the attack in the Fei in number 1. Clear. Ebrin left the beach and walked towards the hotel. The tyrannical genes in the body are prompting it to destroy everything. Snapped. The monster's huge paw stepped on the hotel's houses. In just a moment, the beautifully built resort turned into ruins. Panicked humans fled in all directions. No one came to maintain order, and a series of vicious incidents such as pulling, smashing, and trampling followed. Since the equipment support team has not arrived yet, the support of only a few Victory Team members is undoubtedly a drop in the bucket. Victory Swallow number 1 attacked Ebrin, and the red laser hit the monster. Sizzle. Ebrin's shell was cracked and he screamed in pain. The monster did not stop, but became even more ferocious. Stop it. Tell them to stop. Seeing this, Sayaka grabbed the corner of Yake's clothes and said, he is a human. Horii, tell them to stop. Yak's communication was not turned off, and all Victory Team members could hear it. Captain, what's going on? Lena asked in confusion in the headset. Ark replied coldly, that monster is Horii's friend, Sanada Ryusuke. Then let's go on. Yake said, look at him now, does he still look a bit human? Aren't those running for their lives in the hotel human? Ryusuke got himself involved in human experiments, and now he wants others to suffer with him. Is there such a good thing in the world? As soon as Yak finished speaking, Ebrin in the distance was flashing with green lightning all over his body, and beams of electrical energy gushed out from his claws. The nearest buildings were blown to pieces in an instant. The falling debris is like a shot put, and whenever it hits a crowd of people, it creates a tragic scene. Several unlucky people were killed on the spot. Yake sneered and said, see clearly, this is what your good friend Ryusuke did. There was silence in the headset. But the actions of Daegu and others told it all. They continued to fire. Yak didn't stay for long and walked towards the direction where the monster was wreaking havoc. Sayaka, who was standing there in a daze, still wanted to fight for it. But Yake looked back and froze him in place. Those were a pair of terrifying vertical pupils. Human, don't get in my way. Then, it disappeared among the ruins. Avoiding everyone's sight, Yak took something out of the system space and threw it away. The android took over Ark's command. Boss, it's time to receive the guests. Boom. A huge tremor of heartbeat sounded out of nowhere, and the fleeing humans, the rampaging monsters, and the victorious team members in the battle all stopped what they were doing. The heavy and slow heartbeat tugs at everyone's heart. Something is coming. In front of Ebron, a huge monster rose from the ground. Godzilla. Captain Ark, we found Godzilla, no. The Ark is here. Zinken exclaimed, why is he so big now, bigger than before? Compared to before, the current Godzilla, even if standing there, is much taller than the flying Fiend number 1. This is simply unscientific. His development is so abnormal. Name, Yake. Race, Monster, Godzilla. Height, 108 meters. Weight, 10 tons. Growth value, 43%. Skills, Atomic Breath, Free Fight, Tail Flick, Back Slice, Red Lotus Form, 54%, 8-point Light Wheel, Fire Style, Great Fireball Technique. Note, the Red Lotus form requires energy collection, but it can be activated at any time. The higher the energy collection, the stronger the Red Lotus form after activation. Please decide for yourself. Last time, Jalanbo's core yak was not kept, but was eaten together with the calcium tablets of the Reiki-Alan people. The effect is good. As for Abron in front of him, Yak was drooling over him. Energy, high concentration of energy is right before your eyes. Even though Ebron cells have serious side effects, they are good at storing energy and have their own processing plant for purification. Even Yak looked at it with envy. Eat it! Ho 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 ho! Godzilla roared at Ebron, and the huge wind pressure blew the humans on the ground to the point of being on the verge of collapse. Yak rushed forward, grabbed the large bone on Ebron's head and threw him to the ground, and his strong tail whipped him like an iron whip. The fierce attack was endless, like a river bursting its dam. With zero combat experience, Ebron couldn't hold out at all and was beaten back repeatedly. Ebron's hands have the power of 1,000,000 horsepower, but it's useless when hitting Godzilla. He tried to wrap the tentacles in his claws around Godzilla, but they were torn apart on the spot. Hiss, hiss. Ebron is numb. We are all monsters, why are your skins so thick? Boom. After being thrown away again, Ebron struggled to get up, his whole body flashing with dazzling green light, and a beam of electric energy hit Yak. The massive attack swept across the entire battlefield, and the overflowing electric current mixed with the dust in the air turned a few unlucky guys into charcoal. When the smoke clears, Godzilla is still standing, nothing is wrong with him, and he seems a little comfortable. Chapter 52. Once upon a time, Yake had a dream. You don't have to eat by yourself, just let someone feed you. Now, this great dream has come true. It Abron, a great chef. The highly concentrated energy shot out by the monster hit Jack and was sucked into his body without causing any damage. At headquarters, the intermediary captain is also paying close attention. What just happened? I don't know. Daegu answered dully that he had actually fought with Godzilla. It is the most intuitive way to feel the strength of your former pseudo-comrades. If the original Godzilla was a vigorous young man, now he is like the vigorous young man Pro Max. It feels so good. I haven't had such pure energy in a long time. Yak looked very much enjoying it, as if he was savoring it thoroughly. It was a very correct decision not to arrest anyone directly at the beginning. The monster is a collection of cells, born from a collective consciousness called Ebron. Ryusuke Sanada was at best a tenant. Now, they are afraid. The monster before us has gone beyond the category of living creatures. Ebron raised his hands, gathering all the plasma energy in his body, and tried to use the ability of teleportation to escape. Gakuma, freeze it! Yes. Master! Master! The rock monster Gakuma landed on the ground out of thin air, and a petrifying ray hit the electric beam emitting organ in Ebron's chest. This organ is the central station for Ebron to mobilize energy. The petrification ray has a pretty good ability, but the user is a bit weak and can only petrify an area of the chest. But, that's enough. The transmission was interrupted and unrestrained energy rushed around in the body. Just like a person who has gone crazy while practicing martial arts, Ebron's entire body was unable to move. Take out your camera and do a photo-taking ritual before eating. Click. Photo, Monster Buffet. Ingredients, Ebron. Points, 250. According to the strong request of diners in the universe, the recipe will be automatically spread to the universe. Your cooking skills are already well known in the universe. Well, it's time to eat. Yak walked forward slowly, gathering nuclear energy in his hands. An 8-part light wheel containing nuclear energy appeared and passed across Ebron's chest. Tear. The shell on Ebron's chest was completely useless and was easily cut open, and he rubbed around inside. A thing that looked like a heart was pulled out. The power organ is the organ that Ebron uses to absorb, extract, and mobilize energy, and is also the core of the monster. Roar, roar. Gakuma came closer, rubbed his little head against Yak's calf, and stared at the core. You want to eat? Ho ho. Gakuma nodded frantically. If it weren't for his rigid mind remembering that Yak was the owner, he would have wanted to come up and snatch it away. Yak was not reluctant to leave. As for fusion and sublimation, he looked down on Amir Ebron. Then he threw it into the open mouth of Gakuma. It's time for dinner. Yak picked up Ebron from the ground, but it did not die immediately after losing its core. It's just that all the cells in my body have stopped functioning. Yak inserted his tail into Ebron's chest and used it as a transmitter to continuously absorb energy from Ebron's body. Growth value, 59%. Red Lotus form, 68%. Monsters are the first resource for growth. Today, Yak ate very comfortably. Wrong. After finishing his meal, Yak felt something churning in his stomach and wanted to vomit it out. It is a green bead. Item, Ebron cell. Quality, A. Introduction, how can you only eat one monster at a buffet? In order to give diners a perfect experience, Ebron cell will meet all your needs. How to use, place it on top of the energy source, and Ebron will automatically purify and collect it. After the meal, Jack touched his stomach, staggered towards the beach, and finally disappeared into the vast ocean. Victory swallow number 1 landed. After Ebron's energy was sucked dry, the dried Ebron cells could no longer sustain themselves and turned into white crystals that slowly disappeared. In the middle of the ruins, a familiar figure was lying inside. Ryusuke Sanada. Sayaka hung her head and cried, while Horii remained silent, feeling sad. When good friends leave, I always feel empty inside. Daigu, who arrived at the scene, confirmed Ryusuke's death immediately because the severity of the incident was so great. The TPC research director ignored the rules and conducted human experiments without permission. Yak walked up and patted Horii's shoulder to comfort him. When he saw Daigu, he said with relief, "You didn't crash today. This is a historic progress for the equipment support team." After the Daegu plane crash, all maintenance tasks were done by the support team. If it happens too many times, the support team will start to curse. Collect the team, and leave the aftermath to the support team. Clear. Before leaving, Horii took one last look at Ryusuke. TPC Far East Headquarters. Equipment Support Team. Seeing the intact Victory Swallow, every member of the support team felt like it was New Year's Day. Yak vaguely saw someone opening champagne. Finally, I don't have to repair that damn plane. No more staying up late to work overtime, hooray! You can sleep peacefully now. The repair work of Victory Fee in number 1 was tedious, causing the repair team to stay up late and work overtime every day. Although overtime pay is given, no one can bear it for a long time. Jack didn't care about the festive scene, it was good to have some fun. Captain, I found the information you wanted. A middle-aged man handed over the item in his hand respectfully. This is the deputy captain of the equipment support team. As for his name, Yak forgot, and he is actually too lazy to remember. It's the same anyway. Ah. Yak took the information and nodded slightly, go away. Yes, yes, yes. The deputy captain bowed repeatedly, his face showing more and more respect. The Japanese are like this. The stronger you are, the more respectful they will be to you. Even if you slap them in the face, they will still smile and say well done. Yak was flipping through the information in his hand, which was the information he had asked people to collect on the activities of all the volcanoes in Japan. After letting Galzan run away last time, he seemed to have disappeared without a trace. But Yak remembered that it would retreat into a volcano to recuperate. It's been a few days, it's time to clean up. Japan is a place with many volcanoes, so the information is quite thick. But this was a piece of cake for Yake. Among the many volcanoes, Kirimon Dake volcano comes into view. These days, the fluctuations of Mount Kiromo are very unstable, just like human breathing. Finally found you. The corners of Yaka's mouth curled up, revealing his fangs. I wonder if Galzan, who has already absorbed the magma energy, will become the next meal. Chapter 53. Mount Kirimon. There should be no problem skiing tomorrow morning. There's an elevator here. It's okay. As long as we can move, it's fine. Several men and women who were skiing together walked towards the cabin with their ski equipment. I don't know what's going on these days, the snow on the ground is melting very quickly and the temperature is rising abnormally. Hey, wasn't there a figure flashing by just now? One of the women pointed to the dense woods nearby, where she vaguely saw someone walking by. What? There's no one there. Don't scare yourself. The accompanying man shone a flashlight and found no footprints on the accumulated snow. Hiss. Even though the temperature has risen, the wind is still very cold. Let's move faster. As they were urged, the few people walked further and further away. In the shadows, Yak slowly landed on the ground. He also didn't expect that there were so many tourists in this crappy place, and he didn't even know how many waves of tourists had come. After the snow falls, the temperature may be cold for ordinary humans. But Yak itself is a mobile stove. Even if you only wear a few thin clothes, you can still feel like it is spring all year round. Exhale a breath of hot air. The closer Yak got to the volcano, the more he could feel Galzan's presence. Dull. Thick. Arrived at the crater. Yak crouched on the edge and looked inside. The hot magma is flowing, and the energy contained in it is enormous. Judging from the fluctuations, Wumendake volcano has become an active volcano. No, it's not just that. Yak wrinkled slightly, Galzan used more than just one volcano. The direction of energy flow is clear in the line of sight. Galzan dug through at least 3 volcanoes. Damn, is this guy so cowardly? It was probably because of the psychological trauma that Yak suffered last time that Galzan started digging volcanoes like crazy. How to force it out? How about adding some more fire? He did what he said and took a deep breath. Art fire escape ho fireball. Using the core energy in the body as raw material, there is no need to form seals. The huge amount of flames covers the sky, like a second sun at night. The scorching heat wave seemed to surge out of hell, suffocating people. In an instant, the lumps on the surface of the volcano were cleared away, revealing a whole area of hot magma. Boom boom boom. Mount Kirimon began to shake, and rocks mixed with snow piles formed a small avalanche. It's useless. Yak looked at the huge heat source underground and moved, as if he turned over, and then continued to sleep. Tisk, looks like I have to go find it myself. Bend your knees and jump, a standard diving action. Thump. Yak immersed himself in it and approached Galzan. Although the noise from the volcano did not wake up Galzan, it scared the humans nearby. They saw a huge column of fire burning on the originally silent volcano, which seemed to be showing signs of eruption. What's going on? Isn't Mount Kirimon an extinct volcano? Quick, call the police. Everyone knows that once the volcano erupts, this place will become a scorched earth. Even if they managed to escape, the volcanic ash that was like a haze would be enough to kill every one of them. At the same time, the police station's phone was flooded with calls. In the face of natural disasters, the police station alone is obviously not enough, and they can only continue one level after another until it is transmitted to Director Sawai's office. Fortunately, TPC acted very quickly. The equipment support team has rushed to the scene and organized personnel to distribute supplies. This shelter has been closed. Please follow the instructions to go to the new shelter. The support team held a loudspeaker and advised earnestly, please rest assured, our equipment support team will definitely protect your safety. Difficult, too difficult. There was a huge crowd of people, and people were talking everywhere. Even if you had a loudspeaker, very few people would listen. It would be nice if the captain was here. The team members were miserable, but if Captain Yak was there, according to his character, the first thing he would do was to fire a gun in demonstration. If you don't heed the warning, Captain Yak will not hesitate to put a gun to your head and ask you if you are deaf. Isn't this a shelter? Why do we have to go to another shelter? A middle-aged woman stepped forward and asked. Beneath the heavy makeup, confusion, fear, and disgust filled her entire face. The support team member had to explain patiently, "Please calm down, this shelter is already overloaded, we have another shelter. We have a lot of elderly people and children here." Someone interrupted him and grabbed the support team members by the collar, "You can't just move us like you're moving things. If you want us to move, we have to move." "That's right." "Yes." The others echoed. Each shelter is built according to strict standards, and there are many elderly people and children inside. When will the volcanic eruption stop? Someone asked this key question. But does the support team have any solution? It's not them who caused the sudden eruption of the dormant volcano. All they could say was, "We are investigating. We are investigating." You only talk about investigation. You can't even predict what TPC is for. This sentence was like a spark, instantly igniting the powder keg. The crowd surged and pushed each other to break into the shelter. Several members of the support team were drowned in the crowd and became targets of venting anger. The chaos began. Far East headquarters. All senior leaders gathered together for an emergency meeting. Director Sawai crossed his arms and said, "Tell me about the situation." A man stood up. He was the director of TPC Intelligence Bureau. In fact, it's not uncommon for a dormant volcano to erupt again. Director Miyazawa pointed with his finger, "The problem is the abnormal flow of magma. Everyone, please look." On the big screen, real-time monitoring images of the volcano appeared. Under the surface of Mount Wumen, it seems that something has hollowed it out. According to our prediction, it is connected to at least 2 active volcanoes and 1 extinct volcano. The magma of these volcanoes seemed to be attracted by something and all flowed towards Mount Wumen and then flowed out from Mount Wumen. Just like people breathing. Director Sawai said, "You mean there is a special reason why Mount Kiromo is in trouble?" "Yes." Director Miyazawa predicted the worst-case scenario: if we leave it alone, it is very likely to cause a chain reaction of volcanic eruptions. There was dead silence. Everyone knows what the consequences are. Japan is a place with many volcanoes. If the volcanoes erupt collectively, the economic losses and casualties will be countless. "I have an idea." Director Kashiwamura of the Scientific Research Bureau whispered, "If we use a pipa tank equipped with a cryo laser, it might work." The others didn't say anything because this was the best way. TPC is the largest organization of mankind, but that is all it can do. It is still not enough in the face of the mighty forces of nature. "Okay, let's use this method." Director Sawai nodded and looked at Irumake beside him, "Since Captain Yak is on vacation and out of contact, you have to lead the team yourself. Please." "Clear." Irumake quickly stood up. In fact, to be honest, Irumake was not qualified to attend this meeting, but Captain Ark of the Operations Department had disappeared. "For the time being, I can only let Jujianhui take over." Chapter 54. Mt. Wumen. There is still thick smoke billowing above the volcano. The occasional earthquakes have made people numb. Most of the time, humans have a good ability to accept things. This is the Kuwata town shelter at the foot of Mount Kirikato. It has been several hours since the midnight volcanic eruption. The reporter who came here to smell the smell arrived long before the victory team. "I think many people may have been unable to sleep last night because of anxiety and fear." "Hello, how do you feel now?" The female reporter then interviewed passers-by around her. Strangely enough, no one paid any attention to her. The scene was very embarrassing. Why has this place become like this? Lena, who arrived at the scene, looked at it in disbelief. This is the place that Lena, Deiko, and Nanace Makoto chose last time. At that time, Mount Kirikato had many shops and residences. The resorts are connected one after another. And now, only one night has passed. The ground was littered with trash and debris, shops were looted, and houses were burned to ashes. It was like a scene from hell. The support team was notified of the arrival of the Victory Swallow and some people were waiting there early. "Captain Nakama, I'm Sakata Geniki, the deputy captain of the equipment support team." Vice Captain Sakata did not bow, but walked forward calmly and shook hands. Since Ark formed the support team, Sakata Geniki, who was originally hidden and waiting for retirement, was put into use. Not only did his career enjoy a second spring, but his status also rose. Even facing the captain of the victory team, whom he had never even seen in the past, he could still speak with his head held high. Sakata is a smart man. When he saw the eruption of Mount Kirito, he immediately thought of what Captain Yak had told him. It is also speculated that there is at least a 90% chance that this incident is related to Captain Yak. Irumahué said, "Take me through the current situation." "Okay, please come this way." Sakata dodged and made his way to the temporary command post. Strangely, nurses at the medical center kept coming in and out of the white medical tent. Dagu asked curiously, "Did the eruption of Mt Wumen cause many casualties?" According to intelligence, the volcanic eruption has not fully started. Sakata stopped and quietly opened the tent so that everyone could see clearly inside. There were many injured people, but 90% of the residents only suffered minor injuries such as sprained feet and broken hands. The person lying on the stretcher, his life or death unknown, is a member of the support team. Why? Lena covered her mouth and screamed. "You saw it?" Sakata's eyes were almost spitting fire. He rolled up the clothes on his hand, revealing a large bruise. "Our support team worked diligently and organized the evacuation, but this is how they repay us. They think it's our responsibility to save them, but they don't consider our lives at all. Captain, tell me, who are we fighting for?" Irumahué was speechless and could only comfort her. "After you go back, the organization will compensate you." "Compensation? Haha." Sakata put down the clothes on his arms and walked into the command post with a sneer. At this moment, Dagu began to think about whether Captain Yak's proposal was correct. Give the team members the right to protect themselves even against humans. Dagu refused from the beginning. According to TPC's consistent principle, it is never allowed to point guns at humans. However, the Earth Peace Organization, an organization that protects humanity, cannot protect its own members. How ridiculous! Dagu was silent. He felt that what Captain Yak said seemed to make sense. Horii was wondering if Captain Ark came back and saw this scene. With his protective character, Horii shuddered, not daring to think about it. Enter the temporary command post. There were several devices on the table, all of which were analysis of the situation at Wumenueshan. Sakata pointed to the image of an energy detector and said in a very cold tone, "Under the volcano, we detected a very huge energy aggregate, 2,000 meters underground. But according to our calculations, to stop a chain of eruptions, we only need to freeze the magma at 1,500 meters. It can be vaguely seen from the image. The difference of 500 meters between the two is most likely something that was artificially excavated and is in the shape of a straight channel." But Sakata refused to mention it. He knew that the current situation was definitely related to Captain Yak. Since it was arranged by the captain, Sakata must guard against it strictly. "Follow Captain Yak's orders." Captain Izumi didn't look closely, but just listened to the task requirements. Horii and Daigo were confused and no one had any interest in anything. Lena and Zinken are graduates of the military academy and they are just carrying out the mission. Why are they talking so much? For a moment, no one in the victory team mentioned the 500 meters. If Yak knew about this, he would force each of them to write a 5,000-word combat review. In that case, Team Daegu, Team Shinjo. Have. Irumahué said, "You two will drive the Pippa tank to the underground, and the rest of you will return to the Hyan and be prepared to deal with any abnormalities." Before leaving, Director Sawai specifically told her to ensure that no abnormal situations occurred. "Vice Captain Sakata, I'll leave this to you." Irumake took the initiative to extend his hand and shook it. "I will report to the higher-ups, don't worry." But Sakata didn't buy it. "I won't bother you with these matters, Captain Jujian. I will explain the truth to Captain Yak." "Captain Ark? There shouldn't be any problem." Irumahué nodded and left with his people. On the Pippa tank, Daegu and Shinjo are ready. Boom! A hole was cleared in the mountain wall ahead with explosives to show the direction for the Pippa tank. "We are now heading to the underground of Mount Wumen and preparing to start." "Clear." The Zinken team member pushed the operating lever at hand. The large drill in front of the Pippa tank started working, carrying the two men underground. Under the ground of Mount Wumen. Ark, who transformed into Kamen Rider, got lost again. "Fuck you, Galzin." Jack smashed the rock in front of him with one punch. He didn't expect that this thing could be dug so deep. Although I can see which direction Galzin is in, vision has no scale. There are passages everywhere and traces of digging everywhere. How afraid is Galzin of him? Yak took a deep breath and stopped pretending. What a ridiculous way to find a way. Start digging. He immediately started hammering the ground, punching again and again, and he created a path through it. Finally, after unremitting efforts, he found it. After smashing the last stone wall, a huge space came into view. Countless magmas gather here and flow out through the cracks in the rocks. In the center, Galzin was sleeping soundly with half of his body submerged in the magma. I'm so angry. I work so hard to come to you for dinner, and you tell me you're still sleeping? Yak tapped his belt. Malicious. Chapter 55. Malicious. Fear. Anger. Hate. Despair. Struggle. Killing intent. Destruction. Extinction. Destruction. Perfect conclusion. Learning end. All learned. The rocks under Jack's feet were shattered, and his whole body turned into swift red lightning. Breaking through the layers of magma, he pointed directly at Galzin. It's time for the defense. It viciously and brutally corrodes all objects in its path, turning all the stones and magma into black. Boom! The shock wave of the explosion swept across everything like a hurricane, spreading with Galzin as the center, and the magma in the lake splashed 4 or 5 meters high. The excavated underground lava lake is crumbling. Roar! The reinforced Galzin, weighing 80,000 tons, was kicked off the rock platform where he was sleeping. Galzin struggled to surface from the lava, his eyes, still sleepy, filled with confusion and helplessness. Who am I? Where am I? Did someone hit me just now? Soon, a piercing and tearing sensation came from the head, as if someone was scraping it with a sharp knife. Most of the impact of the arc armor was absorbed by Galzin's magma skin. Malicious attacks that can reach the soul level are quite effective against monsters with low intelligence. Galzin endured the pain and wanted to see who was the one who was so desperate to disturb his sleep. The cute little eyes opened, and what appeared in the left eye was an upside-down human. Hello, my dear friend, do you remember me? Although Yak was wearing a mask, Galzin would never forget that familiar smell. Its brothers, sisters, loved ones, and friends all died at the mouth of that monster. Roar! Galzin's body shook violently. Under the huge force, Jack lost his grip and was thrown out. My strength has increased, and my physique has become stronger. Yak stepped on the lava lake and was filled with surprise. When I watched Ultramantiga more than 20 years ago, I only remember that Galzin would run into a volcano to recuperate. Because of Yak's joining, Galzin was scared to death and dug 3 more volcanoes. You're interesting this way. Yak was excited. After so long, there was finally a monster that he could take seriously. Eat you! A blue light flashed, and a 100-meter-tall Godzilla pounced on him and bit Galzin on the shoulder. Tear! With a fierce pull, a large piece of flesh and blood along with magma-like blood spilled out. Galzin was bitten and retreated repeatedly. The severe pain made him sad and angry. You bullied me before I was strengthened, and you still bully me after I was strengthened, so my strengthening was in vain. Roar! Galzin's eyes also turned red. Fear and injuries were of no use to him. It is now going to fight to the death with Jack. 2 huge monsters were fighting each other madly. Yak has been suppressed for too long, disguised as a human for too long, and his hidden ferocity is growing more and more. Let it all out now. In the battle between the two, Yak fought hand-to-hand throughout without using any skills. The feeling of flesh colliding and blood being torn apart intoxicated him. Boom! With a flick of his tail, Yak knocked Galzin against the rock wall, and his claws hit Galzin one after another. Boom, 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 boom. The violent collision caused the underground lava lake, which was already difficult to explain, to be shaken. In some unknown corner, Daegu and Zinken team members found this place driving the Pippa tank. The central point had already been found, and the problem was solved by shooting out freezing rays, but Daegu insisted on coming down to take a look. Today, this situation can be compared to a dream. Members of the Zinken team, that's Galzin and Godzilla. The ancients were dumbfounded. Dong dong dong. The two watched as the monsters fought each other madly, like the bodies of tall buildings crashing into the rock walls. The hole drilled by the Pippa tank began to collapse. Zinken was anxious. Quick, retreat, get out quickly. However, God did not grant what people wished for. The tunnel could no longer hold up, with tens of thousands of rocks weighing down the Pippa tank. Beep. For a moment, almost all the equipment turned on red lights. Pippa tank is completely paralyzed. The battle in the lava lake not only affects Dagu and the other person. In the outside world, all the volcanoes connected to Mount Wumen began to shake. Boom! Finally, when Yak once again pressed Galzin into the magma, the Wumendake volcano could no longer hold on. The underground lava lake collapsed. The volcano erupted. As a result, the remaining 3 volcanoes all erupted, and the aftermath even affected the surrounding volcanic belts. The earth is wailing. The flaming stones hit the building with long flame tails, and the rising smoke column was 5 kilometers high. The magma flowed down along the ridge, swallowing up all the plants and houses along the way in an instant. This is not just a volcano, it's a whole volcano. Deputy Captain, what should we do? The members of the support team suppressed their inner fear. Sakata closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened his eyes again, only determination remained in his eyes. Everyone, organize the people to evacuate. Those who can't make it in time, will be left alone. You must ensure the safety of all your people. Remember, we are your people. Sakata Genikir particularly emphasized the 3 words our own people. Clear. Underground, the space available for expansion is getting smaller and smaller, but the fighting is becoming more and more brutal. Finally, Galzin couldn't hold on any longer and used his sharp claws to smash the rocks and quickly reach the surface from a depth of 2,000 meters underground. Yak did not hesitate and walked out through the hole dug by Galzin. Before leaving, he turned his head and looked at Dagu who was hiding in the corner. Tiga human body, don't bother me. That's right, Yak had discovered Dagu a long time ago. Inside the Pippa tank, the oxygen level was getting lower and lower, and the new town team members had completely fallen into a coma. Dagu has high resistance and good endurance, so he can hold on a little longer. Facing Godzilla's warning, he looked at his teammates who were gradually unable to hold on. Dagu gritted his teeth and took out the magic stick from his clothes. Captain Yak told me that courage is the hymn of mankind. I want to protect humanity. With a flash of light, Ultraman Tiga came to the ground with the Pippa tank in his hand and placed it in a safer place. The earth was plowed by magma, and the charred marks left ugly scars on the earth. Yak rushed out and chased after Galzin. Stop it! Dagu was so anxious that he started talking on the microphone. The aftermath of the 2 incidents had already caused many humans to be injured or killed. If this fight continues, the consequences will be disastrous. But, will Yak stop? This is obviously impossible. How could the duck in your mouth be let go? Seeing that communication was impossible, Tiga put his hands together and fired a series of palm light arrows forward with one hand. Seeing this, Yak grabbed Galzin and threw him onto the light arrow. Toot toot! The skill hit, but did no damage. All the energy flowed along the flame veins in his chest and was absorbed by Galzin. Chapter 56. What's the situation? The ancients were dumbfounded. Where did my hurt go? Galzin shed tears. Benefactor, this can help me to sustain. After being strengthened by the lava, Galzin became much stronger, even his brain was strengthened. Seeing that he couldn't defeat him alone, he immediately signaled to Tiga, let's fight him together. That monster was ridiculously strong, like a perpetual motion machine, and it never got tired. Dagu nodded. Deep down, he didn't want to cooperate with monsters, but he had no choice at the moment. Cooperation achieved. Yak was happy, it was a rare thing. It's not that there are no monsters that can serve as Ultraman's companions. Ultraman 7 is the best example. The problem is that you, Tiga, and Galzin are sworn enemies. Can this also be cooperative? Let's go together. Hehe, the dying struggle of the weak. Godzilla sneered, and the nuclear energy in his body began to mobilize and attach to every part of his body. Let's get serious about this. Ho. After Godzilla's loud roar, Galzin took the brunt of the attack as the vanguard. A breath, no, not a single breath. He was blown away by Yak's nuclear-powered tail swing, and the resulting explosion caused Galzin to roll on the ground several times. Tiga, who was assisting from the side, went around behind him and flew up to do a compound kick. But Yak seemed to have eyes on his back. He dodged it by tilting his body and pulled Tiga's calf to the ground. Boom! Daegu curled up on the ground in pain, the force was too great. Seeing that the 2 people together were not enough for Godzilla to defeat with one hand, Galzin, who was sleeping on the ground, immediately backed down. Gakuma, stop it! Following the order, another huge monster appeared. Pet, Jakuma, Ebron Core. Race, Monster. Growth value, 0%. Abilities, Petrification Ray, Underground Movement, Underground Radar Angle, Back Ray, Electric Energy Beam, Instant Movement. After absorbing the core, Kakuma finally evolved from walking on 4 limbs to walking on 2 limbs. It has a small head with large bones similar to those of Ebron. Kakuma shot a petrifying ray at Galzan's claw, and his ability to move underground was just enough to stop Galzan. The other side. Yake lifted Daegu up by the arm. You are still too weak. What on earth do you want to do? Daegu stared at the monster in front of him and said, look at what you have done. Countless people have lost their families because of you. Oh. Yake tilted his head and said, what does the life and death of humans have to do with me? You don't really think of yourself as the guardian of the earth, do you? Human beings are unscrupulously expanding their territory, expelling other creatures that originally lived here, and cement and steel bars are squeezing the living space of animals and plants. The will of the earth is calling me all the time, asking me to destroy the human world into pieces, otherwise, let's make a bet. What bet? Daegu said. Yake said seriously, let's bet on the city of Tokyo. We will fight in Tokyo in a month. If they lose, no one in Tokyo will survive. If you win, I will agree to let humans survive temporarily. Don't worry, I'll only use half of my strength. Daegu was silent. Yake didn't give Daegu a chance to refuse. He put Daegu down and warned him again, don't disturb me while I'm eating, or I'll be angry. After Kakuma evolves, the petrification ray becomes even more powerful, and combined with Ebron's energy storage properties, it can be fired for free. More than half of Galzan's body was petrified. Well done. Yak patted Kakuma's head as a reward, then jumped into the crater, dragging Galzan's tail. Underground. Place the Galzan on the lava so that it is fully coated with the lava, adding a unique smoky flavor. Take a deep breath, dizziness is normal. The tip of Yak's tail scratched across Galzan's chest, creating a series of sparks. Pull out the camera and take a picture. Photo, Honey Galzan. Ingredients, Galzan. Points, 550 points. Master, you have a letter from a space eater. This is a machine-like device, slightly heavy in the hand. Boguru, hello, we are very satisfied with your recipes. When can you come and sit with us for a while? Yake glanced at it. Wow, that's quite polite. Boguru is a ruthless person who treats monsters as his main food, and he also has an appetite for all objects with high energy. He shook his head and threw the letter aside. It's time to eat. It's sizzling. The tail infused with nuclear energy was like a steel knife, piercing Galzan's heart effortlessly. Energy is continuously injected into Yak's body. Growth value, 69%. Red Lotus form, 79%. Cool. Yake touched his belly and said with satisfaction, thank you for the treat. Then, Galzan's body was allowed to sink to the bottom of the volcano. On the pipa tank, Daegu sat on the bumpy metal shell, staring blankly at the setting sun in the distance. The dim halo was a bit dazzling. Ended. Is this the end? Daegu felt empty inside. Godzilla was relatively gentle towards him, but this further proved how powerful he was. Because of that bet, the lives of an entire city now rest on his shoulders. Tiga jumped up and disappeared into the sky. Hey, isn't this Team Daegu? A familiar voice sounded in his ears. Daegu turned his head and saw that it was Captain Yak. Captain, I. Daegu was dejected, covering the bruises under his clothes, and didn't know how to tell Yak what had just happened. Don't look so sad. Yak found a clean place and sat down next to Daegu. It's just that the pipa tank is broken, I'll find someone to fix it for you. That's not it. Daegu buried his head in his knees. I made an appointment with someone to have a one-on-one duel in a month, but I can't win. Godzilla put too much pressure on him. Yake took out a lollipop from his pocket and stuffed it into Daegyu's hand. It's just a small matter, no big deal, I'll give you special training. Ultimately, Tiga's strength is related to his human form. If the human body can't keep up, everything will be in vain. Yak understood one thing clearly, if he didn't give himself special treatment. Even if Daegu is given half a year, he will still lose if he cannot open the shining form. As for what to do with the people in Tokyo if the battlefield was chosen in Tokyo, Jack had never considered it at all. As human beings, life and death are determined by fate, and wealth and honor are determined by God. Team leader. Okay. Why are you here? Aren't you on vacation? Daegyo was very curious about how Yak appeared here. See for yourself. Yak threw the PDI communicator over, which contained a message from the support team's deputy captain, Sakata Genaki. What he was talking about was the support team being injured. Yak said with a smile, "It's only been a few days since I was away, and someone is bullying my team members. None of them can escape." Beneath the smile is a cold frost. The volcanic eruption and the fight between monsters just now caused countless casualties. Whether or not you can find someone is a problem. But Daegyo didn't dare to say it, because the captain was angry, and who knew if he would ask him to write a self-criticism in a rage. Chapter 57. Director Sawai, please think of a solution. A middle-aged man in a suit bent over and begged, the area below Mount Wumen is already a ruin, and tens of thousands of residents are homeless. Please order the people to evacuate. Now all the roads around Wumenueshan have been blocked. It has been announced that they are going to clean up the problems left by the monsters and no one is allowed to enter or exit. Many relief supplies were forced to stop, and all TPC members were armed with live ammunition. Director Sawai sighed and said, "Mr. Kimura, do you think it will be helpful to find me? The person you really messed with is called Yake, Captain Yake of the equipment support team. Also, you really went too far this time." In fact, even Director Sawai did not expect that, given the identity of TPC, ordinary people should stay away from it. Now the support team members who went to rescue were injured and lying in the hospital for treatment. How would he be viewed as the director? Just let Yak go. Director Zijing pointed to the meeting room at the back and said, "The person you requested is inside." After that, he turned around and left. Kimura stood in front of the meeting room door, took a deep breath, and pushed open the door. What comes into view is a long, dark table. At the end, a young man who looked to be in his 20s was sitting in the main seat. So young. Kimura was amazed in his heart, but he didn't dare to show any contempt for the other person's youth. He bowed 90 degrees and said, "Captain Yak, hello. I am Kimura from Mount Wumendake." But he didn't hear Yak speak for a long time, so he kept bending over and waiting. 5 minutes later, Kimura's waist was numb. "Well, sit down." These 3 words were like heavenly music, making Kimura feel relieved. Kimura was so cautious that he only dared to sit on half of his butt. "Mr. Kimura, I won't waste any more time talking to you. How are you going to handle this matter?" Yak's face was very calm. "If it doesn't satisfy me, hee." After 2 cold laughs, Kimura broke out in a sweat. He couldn't imagine how Yak got into TPC and how he became the captain of such a large army. Yak doesn't even think of other people as human beings. This is not in line with the philosophy of peace on earth. Kimura opened his mouth and gritted his teeth, "We will bear the medical expenses of your injured team members, and we will pay the lost wages for the other team members on duty. Except for those who died in the accident, we have already controlled the rest, but some of them are just adults, or already in their 60s or 70s. There was a hint of pleading in his words. Yake picked up the teacup and watched the tea leaves rise and fall. "Mr. Kimura, do you think you can act recklessly just after becoming an adult? If the person lying on the hospital bed is your loved one, what would you do? Do my team members deserve this? They work overtime every day and go to the front line, all for the purpose of earning money to support their families. Is this how they deserve to be treated?" These days, the family members of every injured person came to Yak, asking him with red eyes what to do. Yake said coldly, "There is another truth that you should understand, Mr. Kimura. It's not that the old people have become bad, but that the bad people have become old. I will notify people to pick up the people you arrested and hand them over to the injured's families. Over the next 3 years, all subsidies and investments will be halved for all participants' locations. I believe no one will refuse the kind reminder from the equipment support team. Overbearing. There is no room for maneuver. At present, the equipment support team has spread throughout the entire operations department, and can be regarded as the Earth Defense Force in disguise as a support team. Even Director Sawai had to be cautious before removing Yak. The equipment support team was led by Yak single-handedly, and almost everyone only recognized him. After all, who wouldn't follow a leader who knows how to collect funds, has rich combat experience, knows how to train his subordinates, and helps them stand out? After finishing his business, Yake stood up and left, completely ignoring Kimura who was slumped on the ground. When he opened the door, Director Sawai was standing there waiting for him. "Captain Yake, aren't you being a little too rough?" Soichiro Sawai is a good old man, but when he was young, he successfully transformed LHG into the World Peace Federation. It was further changed to the current TPC. Yake didn't even dare to imagine how cunning the means were. "Director Sawai, I still say that we should give, in order to protect our rights in the face of humans. I won't stay any longer. Daegyu is still waiting for me." Yake waved his hand and walked towards the training room. At TPC Far East headquarters, each floor has a fitness training room specially prepared for members. With Yake's position, it should be no problem for him to apply for an entire room for his own use. Push open the door with the sign "Expropriated." On the empty wooden board, Daegyu was walking unsteadily. With every step you take, your entire body is under tremendous pressure. "Yay, Captain Yak." Daegyu looked like he had just been pulled out of the water, sweating profusely. "How do you feel? Do you need a break?" Yak reminded him kindly, fearing that if he wasn't careful, Daegyu would be killed in a bang. "I can do it. I can do it." Daegu gritted his teeth and continued his training. There were steel rings locked on Daegyu's limbs and his upper body was wearing something like an iron vest. These were not made casually, but were scraps that Yak specially took from Godzilla. Don't underestimate things, even the system gives an evaluation. Item, weighted suit. Quality, B. Introduction, the scraps from a giant beast called Godzilla become extremely heavy after being infused with nuclear energy. Note, after improvement, the injected nuclear energy will slowly penetrate into the human body and strengthen the body. Daigo is the human form of Tiga. He has reached the pinnacle of humanity and wants to break through the old shackles and become a true non-human. It is necessary to use means beyond ordinary people to tap into potential. Seeing that Daegyu's physical strength was running out, there was something holding him back, forcing out his potential. Is that light? It looked a little blurry to Yak, but he could feel it vaguely. "Okay, take it off and rest for a while." Seeing that the time was up, Daegyu finally stopped trying and took off his weight-bearing suit. Boom! 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 There were 5 consecutive bangs, and the wooden boards on the ground were broken. Daegu collapsed to the ground, panting, "Captain, is this how you were trained? It's so devilish. Just by wearing this thing and taking one step, you can surpass 90% of humans." Yake drank his tea calmly. Yes, it's something passed down from my family, the mysterious Qigong from China." Indeed, Daegyu had long heard that the great eastern country was rich in resources and full of strange people and things. Otherwise it would be impossible to explain why Captain Yak is so strong. Chapter 58. Item, Godzilla Breathing Technique. Quality, A. Introduction, a Godzilla who wishes to remain anonymous has come up with a method of absorbing the energy in the air by imitating his own breathing. Note, a small amount of nuclear energy can be converted to strengthen itself. The breathing method and weight set are used in conjunction with each other. Daegu, who has been training for some time, has made rapid progress. Yake put down the teacup in his hand and unbuttoned his sleeves. "Have you rested well? Come, practice with me." The identity of Tiga's human body is not a lie, and Daegu's recovery ability is extremely abnormal. In just 3 minutes, you will feel full of energy. Daegu stood up with a somersault and assumed a fighting stance as if facing a formidable enemy. Even though Jack didn't move, and even had one hand in his trouser pocket, the aura he exuded was enough to shock many people. "Captain, be careful." Daegu bent his body and approached Yak, almost sticking to the ground, his burst of speed leaving only a trail of afterimages. The next moment, he leaped directly into the air and kicked in the air. "Too slow." Jack commented calmly and dodged by just turning sideways. "There is a flaw." Daegyu's eyes lit up, and he actually used the force of the air to perform a second whip kick, with even greater power. After days of hard study and practice, he finally mastered this inhuman skill. "It's still too slow." Yak shook his head, blocked it with his hand, grabbed Daegyu's collar and threw him out. Boom! Daegyu fell to the ground and rolled 4 or 5 meters away. "Come again." Daegyu became even more excited, he could finally get the captain to take action. The battle lasted nearly half an hour. Daegu's figure was very fast, and he launched indiscriminate attacks on Yak from all directions, but he was blocked one by one. If other people see this, they should report it directly to TPC, saying that there are aliens fighting. The movements and speed are completely beyond ordinary people, they are simply not human. Awesome! Exhausted, Daegye fell to the ground, his chest heaving violently. On the other hand, Yak, he was fine, not even sweating. By the way, let's go out for a walk. Ah! It's so late. Daegye looked at the sun gradually setting outside. Yake glanced at him with disdain. You are a single guy without a girlfriend, and you just stay at home every day. I heard that a new night market opened in the 55R area. It's just right for me to replenish my energy. The food at the base is so bland. Oh. 55R area. Daegu held a bag of barbecue in his arms. This skewers are really delicious, but, Captain Yak, is it really okay for us to eat such greasy food? When exercising, people usually eat foods that are low in calories and high in nutrition. What I was holding in my arms was totally inappropriate to the situation. Yake was drinking tea to relieve the greasiness, and said slowly, you know nothing, you are already practicing this kind of thing with me, so don't worry about whether it is healthy or not, and eat whatever is high in calories. You'll starve to death sooner or later if you eat oatmeal bread. I'm not an ordinary person, so why do I have so many dietary requirements? And I can't gain weight. It was now late at night, and apart from Yak and the other two, no one was active. Suddenly, a ball emitting red light appeared on the deserted road. Spaceman! Daegye became alert and touched his waist out of habit. Hiss! Oh no! Daegu cursed inwardly, forgetting to bring his HEP rifle. In front of him was an alien wearing blue armor and with a round red sphere on his face. Yake tilted his head and whispered, what's wrong with this alien? Why do the shoulder armors on his shoulders look like two tumors? Captain, stop making trouble. Daegu smiled bitterly, took a stance, and shouted to the alien, hey, alien, squat down immediately with your hands on your head. Your muscles are very strong. You must be a very good fighter. The special voice of the alien was transmitted to Dagu's head and automatically converted into human language. What did you say? Daegu didn't react for a moment, and when he saw the cosmic man walking towards him, he shouted, first warning. Hehe, the alien turned a deaf ear. Second warning. The Standalites are the strongest warriors at night, and mere humans. Third warning. Before he could finish his words, Daegu took a quick step forward and punched the alien in the chest. Boom! The blue Standel alien was punched away like a cannonball, and a clear fist mark appeared on the armor on his chest. This punch stunned the Abbas people. No, I, Abbas, am the strongest warrior in the dark on the planet Standel. A mere human being was knocked flying by my punch? Who is the alien? Seizing the advantage, Daegu immediately chased after Abbas and started fighting with him. At the beginning, Abbas underestimated his enemy and was knocked away, but now he is serious and still has the strength. He was actually on par with Daegu. As for Yak, he was cheering. Poke its eyes, no. Hammer its red ball. Hey, why are you hitting its tumor? You're just digging its lower body. Why are you jumping so high? Are you waiting to give away your weakness? Shoot its legs, idiot. Although it may seem like he was just watching a show, every word that Jack said was effective. Following Yak's instructions, Daegye used his insidious tricks on Abbas like flowing water. Standel had never seen such a scene before. He used the strange strength of his arms to push Daegye away, and a blue light flashed on his body. A spacecraft's tractor beam falls on it, carrying Abbas away. Don't run! Daegu was so anxious that he almost took out the god light stick from his chest and transformed into Tiga to chase after him. After these days of devilish training, Daegye was almost driven crazy by Captain Yak. After finally finding someone who was equally matched with him, he still felt a little unsatisfied. Daegu said, Captain, let's quickly report what happened to that alien. Yake shook his head, no, it should be 2 aliens. 2? Daegye was full of questions. Follow me. Led by Yak, they found a shaded lawn. There are traces of being trampled here. It looks like the person who was standing here just now has left. His steps are unsteady and he must be very weak. Captain, how did you find out? Daegye widened his eyes, unable to believe it. I gave you Qigong, so just practice it yourself. Yake patted Daegye's shoulder and said, report it quickly. Clear. Jack was not lying. The Godzilla breathing technique really does have the effect of strengthening the eyes, allowing one to detect subtle changes in the surroundings. But he doesn't have the abnormal ability like Yak, who can know everything just by smelling it. Okay, yes, I understand. Dagu reported to the headquarters, and his expression became strange as he reported. After hanging up, he looked at Yak with a look of astonishment. Captain Ark. Okay. Just now the headquarters said that someone had mysteriously disappeared in Area 55R, and the witnesses said they had encountered an alien. Could it be the one from before? Chapter 59. TPC Far East Headquarters. Commander's Room. A group of people gathered together, seemingly discussing something. Dagu, who had just entered the room, said, "What are you doing? Didn't you say you wanted to track down the aliens? Dagu, you guys are finally here, come quickly." Horii waved to the two of them and said, "Hurry and check if this is the alien you met. There are many sketches on the table. There are 2 colors in total, red and blue." Daegu handed the unfinished skewers to Lena and picked up the painting to study it carefully. "At that time, we encountered a blue Stendhal alien, but Captain Ark also discovered traces of another alien. It should be like what Captain Ark said, there are 2 aliens." "Stendhal, what is that?" The new name made Lena curious. Dagu said, "He said it himself when we were attacked by the aliens. If he hadn't run so fast, I would have almost knocked him down." "Knocked down? Alien?" The scene was very quiet for a while, and everyone looked at each other. They know that Dagu's physique exceeds that of normal people, but, isn't it a bit too outrageous to fight an alien? "Captain Daegu, are you awake?" Captain Jujian frowned. Lena put her little hand on Daegu's forehead to test whether his temperature was high. "You don't have a fever, why are you talking nonsense?" No one believed this was true. It was scary enough to have a pervert like Captain Yak in the operations department. "Hey, you guys trust me?" Dagu was anxious, "I really beat the aliens. If you don't believe me, ask Captain Yak." Everyone's eyes were fixed on Yak, who was drinking tea and doing nothing. Yak said calmly, Yes, Daegu did not lie, he really did it." Seeing this, everyone was even more unconvinced. Lena pouted and said, "Dagu shouldn't brag." Xingqian tilted his head and whispered in Daegu's ear, "I know you want to show off in front of Lena, but you can't talk nonsense. Captain, you have caused me so much trouble." Daegu wanted to cry but had no tears, and looked at Yak with resentment in his eyes. On the other hand, Yak shrugged helplessly. "It's my fault. They don't believe it. I'm just telling the truth." Clap clap. Irumahue clapped his hands and said, Okay, let's get back to the topic. The problem now is how to catch this Stendhal star." Team member Yerui flipped through the records and projected the integrated data onto the screen. From Area P to Area R, the missing people are roughly within this range, and the time of occurrence is all after dark and before dawn. In that case, patrol and investigate from Area P to Area R. Captain Junction looked towards the corner and said, "Captain Yak, I'm counting on you." Inside the TPC hangar, Yak led the victory team and walked in the middle of the road. Everyone passing by gave way voluntarily, and some even stopped and bowed their heads to show respect. "Captain Ark! Captain Ark!" Almost all the people along the way were from the equipment support team. Since the last Wu Menu incident, Yak's reputation in the support team has become even higher. Dagu asked in a low voice, "Captain, how many people are in your support team?" Yak thought for a moment and said, "Well, I have combat squads, repair squads, reconnaissance squads, weapons development squads, and logistics support squads. In addition to these, there should be special classes with smaller numbers, but I can't remember exactly, but I have support teams in all aspects." Daegu's mouth twitched. Is this really a support team? The number of people was almost as many as the reinforcements, and Commander Yoshioka fainted in the toilet. No, how on earth did Director Sawai agree to this? Cut. A man in the office sneezed and continued to look at the documents on the table, praising, as expected of a team led by Captain Yak, the efficiency and results of handling problems are excellent. Train them, and someone will take over later. Inside the hangar, the Fiian had already left the headquarters and was heading towards the designated area. Everything is normal from Area P41 to Area Q07. Everything is fine here. It's the same here, everything is normal. In Yak's headset, the reports from Daiko, Horii, and Shinjo were all normal. We're not going to find him this way. Everyone change into regular clothes and move from Area P to Area R these days to look for suspicious people. Following the order, the Victory Swallow was stored at the nearest temporary airport. Ark's voice came from the headset. I and Daiko are on one team, Hori and Lena are on one team, and Shinjo and Munikata are on one team. Everyone should investigate separately and keep in touch. Clear. Everyone responded one after another. At a roadside food stall, Daegyu and Yak were eating oden. Captain, is this really okay? Daegyu felt uneasy. Yakkei said cheerfully, rest is for better work, you usually push yourself too hard, it's okay to relax. Look at my support team. Except for the repair team who work a little harder, the others are all extremely efficient. Besides, maybe we'll run into each other while we're walking around. Daegyu thought about it and it seemed to make some sense. The temptation of slacking off finally slowly eroded this diligent young man. Time passed slowly and night fell. Captain, where are we going to stay tonight? After a whole day of shopping, the two of them didn't look tired at all. Yake said leisurely, walk a little further, it's not the right time yet. Oh. Daegu nodded, very well behaved. Wandering around was a bit boring, but Daegyu still said nothing. The captain must have his reasons for doing this. Suddenly, Yake stopped and he smelled a rat. 2. One is very strong and the other is very weak. Follow me. Yak walked very fast and jumped 7 or 8 meters in an instant, followed closely by Daegyu. When they stopped, they came to an empty intersection. Captain, this is not right. Just as Daegyu was about to ask what was here, he immediately noticed something unusual. There were signs of a fight. There were tiny traces of lightning burns on the ground. Daegu's strength is not as abnormal as Yake, but it has surpassed ordinary people. One has left on a spaceship, and the other has been rescued. Yake touched his chin and said, follow me. The smell has not disappeared and can be found. Following the smell, the two walked from the intersection all the way to the residential area. Finally, we stopped in front of a traditional Japanese house. What is very interesting is that this short house, sandwiched between tall buildings, looks unexpectedly old. Daegu asked in surprise, Captain Yak, is this really the place? You'll know if you take a look. Yake raised his eyebrows. There's no way my nose can be wrong. Dong dong dong. Daegu knocked on the door. I'm coming. The old man's hoarse voice came from behind the door. Chapter 60. Yeah. The wooden door has been used for a long time and makes a lot of noise. An old woman in very simple clothes opened the door a crack and showed half of her face. Who are you? The two men looked at each other, and Daegu took a step back tacitly to let Yak speak. Hello, we are, Smithda, travelers from Korea. Yake curled up his neck and shivered as if he was frozen. We are unfamiliar with the place and can't find the way. Can we stay here for one night? The weather turned cooler, and the evenings were windy and cold. Seeing how thinly the two were dressed, the old woman believed them to be true. She opened the door and muttered, Come in. What's going on today? There are homeless people everywhere. Everywhere? Daegu grasped the key words. I walked into the house and sure enough, a Standell alien dressed in red was wrapped in a blanket and holding a cup of tea in his hand. Alien. The captain is right. Daegu stood in front of the old woman, tense his muscles, ready for any possible conflict. For a moment, the situation was tense. Snapped. Oops. Daegu covered his head. Including Yak and the alien, they were all given a slap in the face. The old woman's frail body blocked the sight of several people like a thick wall. No fighting, everyone should live in peace. Yake, no, I didn't do anything. They want to fight, what does it have to do with me? Beep, beep. The crystals on the Standell star's face flickered, and the language was automatically transferred to his brain. Yes, Grandma. That's good, that's good. I'll go make some tea and you two can have a good chat. The old woman smiled, turned, and walked out. The scene became awkward again. It was Yake who sat down first, crossing his arms over his chest. Tell me, who are you and what is your purpose? The alien was quite honest. I am Redel from the planet Standell. I am here to find a man named Ababas. Abbas? That blue spaceman? Daegu frowned and said, Why did you arrest the Earthlings? And what did you do to the old woman? Redder was silent for a moment. The Abbas are a blue race of the night, coming to Earth to capture warriors who can fight during the day. I would be very weak at night. If it wasn't for my grandmother, I would have been seriously injured and died. It was she who dragged me back. Humans took in the aliens. A situation that almost no one would believe if you told them. Captain. Daegyo looked at Yak in confusion. Yak nodded, indeed, I didn't feel any external energy invading the old woman, it should be that she saved it spontaneously. Scratch. The sliding door was pulled open. The old woman's hands were shaking as she made a cup of tea for Daegyo and Yak respectively. I don't know if you guys want to drink this tea or not. Come on. Thank you. Thank you. The three of them tacitly agreed not to continue the previous topic. I'm the only one here, so please don't be polite and treat me like your own home. Are you hungry? My old man is dead, and eating alone doesn't taste good, so there is nothing delicious at home. The old woman brought out a plate of food from the cabinet at the back, my teeth can no longer chew them. These pancakes have been stored for a long time. Please don't despise them. It seemed like she hadn't sat down and talked with anyone for a long time. The old woman was a little nagging, where are you from? Why are you dressed so strangely? Beep, beep. Standell? Are you here looking for someone? You can stay here until you find that person. A spaceman, a human being. A very strange combination, but miraculously they were sitting together and talking at this time. The old woman was not frightened because the alien looked different from her. Instead, she was very happy that someone was talking to her. Captain, what should we do? Daegyo was at a loss. Wait and see. In Jack's eyes, the old woman's soul was glowing with a soft golden light. This shows that the old man in front of us is a very kind person. Godzilla doesn't like what humans do, but some of them are pretty good. Yak did not interrupt their conversation, but pulled Daegyo aside and watched quietly. Supervision. Godzilla's duty. Ark does not have an accurate position as a human or a monster. His behavior is more based on nature rather than simply good or evil. The night is getting darker. The old woman was a little tired from chatting. I'm so tired, there haven't been any customers for a long time, sorry, I have to go to bed first. You guys chat. The old woman's feet felt numb after kneeling for too long, so Daegyo hurried forward to support her and walk her out the door. Watching the old woman leave, Jack leaned on the table, leaning forward in an oppressive posture, approaching Riddle. I hate aliens. I'll give you 3 days to get out of here. Otherwise, don't blame me. You are not a human, who are you? Riddle also reacted. The man in front of him just looked exactly like a human. Yak grinned, revealing his fangs, don't ask questions that you shouldn't ask. The Earth doesn't like outsiders. He asked me to warn you to get out of here, or I'll eat you. To be honest, the reason why Tiga was accepted was because there were endless monsters that needed to be cleared. Who likes to have fleas? Now that Godzilla is here, the Earth will has more people to choose from. Compared to Tiga, who came from a foreign land, Yak is the first protector of the will of the Earth. The night passed. When she woke up early in the morning, the old woman found that the prepared guest room was tidy and there was no sign that anyone had slept there. When I came to the living room, except for the lights which were still on, everything else was neatly tidied. It was as if no one had been here. It seems that he is gone. The old woman sat down cross-legged, and the sunlight outside the house shone in obliquely. As if adding some vitality to the deserted room, the old lady murmured to herself, what does it matter if we don't speak the language? Why bother leaving? Taking advantage of the good weather, Grandma went out to the supermarket and bought a lot of things. Grandma, why did you buy so much? You can't finish it all by yourself. The saleswoman said, just buy the same amount as usual. No, I want to buy them all back. Maybe there will be customers today. The old lady smiled and rejected the salesperson's kindness. But will there really be guests? Carrying a lot of things is still too heavy for an elderly person. The old lady stopped at the usual park and fed the pigeons with the bread in her hand. In the park, adults were playing with their children, and an old lady was sitting under the shade of a tree, looking a little dazed. Wow! A gust of wind blew, and the flock of grey pigeons was startled and flew away, leaving only a few lonely ones on the ground. After resting enough, the old lady walked home along the road she had walked countless times. I stopped as usual on the bridge when passing by, reminiscing about the past, and there was someone who accompanied me walking along the familiar streets. Hey, hurry up, are you going to jump or not? A young man dressed like a gangster said impatiently. The woman next to him echoed, whether you jump or not, we are very busy. The old lady turned around and glared at the two of them, but there was nothing she could do. What are you looking at? The man stood up and reached out to push. Don't be rude to grandma. A hand grabbed the man tightly.